I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Tina, I think you're number one on payday.
Okay. We have the sales tax. The regular sales tax is $53,694.11. And the special half-cent sales tax for the jail is $46,513.91. And then we have the warrant register, and the grand total for payday is $1,332,678.26. Do want to make you aware that we did purchase 2 ambulance chassis, which are included in this. The dealer gave another $2,000 discount on the chassis, and there may be additional discount on the boxes as well. They're still working on that piece, so you'll see an invoice for that we paid out $79,000. That's for 2 chassis.
Okay.
What is that pictometry thing?
Pictometry?
Pictometry?
That's our digital mapping program, and we have a payment of $35,087, I think it is. It's a 3-year contract, and so we're in the 2nd year. We'll have 1 more payment next year, and that's paid out of sales tax.
Explain what that does, so Kent knows what you're talking about.
Okay, it is a digital mapping program that we can go into and get aerials, and it also, a lot of the cities and the other agencies use it. The appraiser's office uses it heavily, but it's got a lot of capabilities. You can see the parcel lines, but you can also see, one thing that it's used for is in a disaster situation, because you can see what buildings were there at a certain time, or roads even.
Oh.
And then if something's wiped out, they'll come back and flag the county in a disaster for no charge, and then you can see the difference, and it helps a lot with the property valuation.
Sure.
I use it for elections and tax quite a bit. I mean, I use it.
This one did include a flyover. This one did include a flyover.
What we're paying for is the
Yes.
flight,
Right.
this last flight that we just had last year.
Okay. And we haven't done it every year. Some places, if they grew enough, they go every year on flights, but we've always felt that 3 to 4 years is, probably flyovers to update our information.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have your computer with you, Diane?
I do, it's
I can,
back here.
do you want me to reset it for you while you're looking at it?
So I wonder what makes it do that? Just, the keyboard just doesn't recognize the keyboard?
No, sometimes you'll have a keyboard dock error, and then you'd have to reset your keyboard. And it's just this little thing on the back. But I may have to charge it a little bit before I can see what it's doing, so
Okay.
I'll just let it charge over here if that's okay.
Did you want to look at the time cards? You done with the mail?
Yeah, I'm done with that.
Okay.
I haven't seen that. That bill with B&G keeping us up at 21,437.
That's the bill that he submitted.
Okay.
I think that what you had approved was up to 31 or
Yeah,
32,000,
right.
and so this is what he submitted. I don't know if there's another bill coming.
Okay, right,
Yeah, is
right.
that what you're asking?
Mhm.
Okay.
Got a question for you. Now that they got laptops, you just send everything directly to their laptop? And so then it's all there?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
it's a lot. We used to do paper packets
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
And then the sheriff's deputies had to go deliver them, and it was,
Oh, yeah.
so this is a lot less expense.
Yeah,
and time.
that's what, I'm on the hospital foundation board, that's what they do, they just send you an email and you have everything right there.
Well, we have a place we can post it, but not everybody is comfortable getting in there, so I just email it
Yeah.
also as a backup.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of
It's,
piles of
Oh,
paper.
it does.
right.
It's great when it works well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
when you have the
anything-
technical difficulties.
Anything's
it's
good
not.
when it works well.
That's right.
Yeah.
In your packets, you had the inventory, just the blank sheets. These are the actual signed by the departments. And the commission approves those by February 28th each year. And so I'll just, if you have some time between now and admin, if you want to look through some of this inventory, you can do that as well.
They're on here, on our.
Yes, the ones in here are the ones, they don't have the department head signatures. These are the actual ones that do. And then once you've had a chance, I'll have you, as an official order of business today, I'll have you approve that.
And I do have one question on it if I can. There is a department that just says Department Radios Other.
Those are, for this year, since we're doing that lease purchase and all the departments have to pay us back, we are listing those in a separate location, just to track them.
Okay.
Because the county technically is responsible for paying for them and then being repaid by the districts. So we just decided to include them.
Did you want, it's on there, but there it is, and if you want to look at it.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll do official action on it later.
That's always done as of 31st inventory. How do you determine your values for your inventory?
Purchase. So a lot of that is, the older stuff is,
Yeah.
you know, we don't figure in any depreciation or anything.
We had the heaters for the heated dock before we had the heated dock.
Yeah.
They're within the folder. Does anybody want to take this small magazine?
It doesn't look like an
They
interesting
just,
topic.
they send these enormous magazines.
There it is.
Since we have a moment, I wanted to introduce my new election clerk. This is Marcy Hostetler.
Marcy.
And these are the commissioners. There's Randy
Nice to meet you,
Velke,
Marcy.
Randy, nice to meet you, sir.
Diane Novak, and she's the chairman this year.
Nice to meet you, ma'am.
And then Kim Becker.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, sir.
And this is her third day.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it is.
anyhow,
Thank you very much.
we're excited. Thanks, Marcy.
Nice to meet you.
Sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
it's all right, you're not interrupted at all.
She's probably gonna be.
You want us to sign off on this?
We'll do that through official action here in a little bit. I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to look at everything, so. Susan's, I don't know when she's coming today. You did have your the purchasing card report in your packet as well, so. Any other questions on payday stuff?
I don't have anything that stands out in my mind. I don't.
Okay. You will notice we do have the second and third quarterly payments for the MCC EDC as part of the payroll.
You showed it as two different payment, or two different line items there.
I've seen that.
Okay. Is it supposed to be nice today again?
Go what?
Is the weather supposed to be nice today?
Supposed to be cooler, I think.
Yesterday was
fair.
so nice.
We're back wearing shorts again.
Well, good morning.
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 59 today, it says.
That's not too bad.
63 Saturday.
Good. I think I'm supposed to take a bunch of Girl Scouts to the mall to spend the night on Saturday night.
Spend the night at the mall.
The night.
Yes.
Cool.
They stay up all night and play games and dance and run around.
And you stay up all night.
I have been known to do that. I don't know if I will this year.
Oh,
I may
man.
rest.
Sounds like torture to me.
That might have been her prior life she was talking about.
No, this is this life.
You can have that one too, Dean.
Oh, thanks. We do have a lot of administrative, so I don't know if you
Yeah,
are ready,
I'm ready.
when you're ready.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready, ready, ready.
Okay. First, I have the minutes of February 20.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and accept the minutes of February 20th as written.
Second.
Second by Randy, all in favor say aye.
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 Here's the page to sign. Thank you. change orders, which were in your packet.
You slipped on my behind.
Yes, you should have been at the Economic Development Corporation meeting.
Oh,
I'm
no.
gonna give you a couple of them to start, and give
Okay.
you a couple of them to
What's
start.
that?
They averted a serious conflict of interest. Mike Menike bought the roads. Yeah, he tried to rent it to them for $1,000 a month.
Nothing. Just some people make statements that they don't know nothing about sometimes.
If you're there, you know that.
No. You added to the statement.
I think it's talking
No,
about right now.
I was sitting right there and watched.
I know, I understand that. But you added to the statement. Yeah, you did.
That they averted a serious conflict of interest.
Hey, Jean. You taking it? Oh.
I have the book. I forgot to give it to you.
I have to wonder if it's in there. I have
Cindy, I never know what line you're gonna be on.
You know, I figured that out either.
Thanks, Jean.
That was the first one I just started.
It's fine.
I warmed up, finally got to the bottom.
There's
where I
still
need to be.
time. I got till March 18th.
Oh, okay.
Well, I got-
Yeah, I caught that. See?
You got
And
the
it
lead.
just came right
I
there.
gotta find it.
So. How was your deadline last night?
Huh?
How was deadline last night?
How was
Deadline.
it? Better than usual.
Oh, good.
Oh, you have,
I've got some of the winter man.
Oh, okay. This,
Tomorrow. Okay. Okay, I've had the department inventory, and that needs to be accepted and approved by motion and vote, and then we sign this. We'll sign this.
Has everybody had a chance to look at stuff? We'll make
Yeah.
to accept the inventory as
have a motion by Randy to accept the inventory. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent Becker. All in favor, say aye.
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 And then I have others, I was something else.
We have days like that.
I'm getting too old for this.
That was a big part of your packet, and I
That was
thought
a
you might want to
big-
look,
I didn't
have the
print that off.
opportunity to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't print that.
Yes.
Actually, I wanted to sit, but I had,
Treat it.
I think.
Yeah.
I left about 8. I mean, didn't.
It's a lot of stuff.
I mean,
Goodness.
spring weekend. I
There you
guess.
go.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back now. We do have the encumbrances that were approved from the 2017 budget. They needed to be used by today. And so on your table today, I have given you all the list of the encumbrances. We encumbered, at the bottom there, you'll see we encumbered a grand total of $515,986.83. Part of that was for the final bills for 3/30th. We spent $358,420.63 of that by today. And so the amount that needs to be canceled is that next amount, the $157,566.20.
Well,
Which is what project? What are we doing?
Well, if you look in the column, the canceled column, it is, you'll see, like at the
Ones
very
that's not
top,
spent, right?
yeah, judicial had some that they encumbered more for each of their little projects than they spent. Excuse me, I think I'm gonna sneeze. So the top ones are the ones in the general fund. Then you have the ambulance fund, those were spent. Health department, we're canceling the encumbrance for the computers because they weren't approved in 2017. Road and bridge, that soil saver project has not been done yet, so that invoice is not here, so that will be canceled. The pup trailer, we don't expect to receive for several more months, so that will be paid for out of the current year. And then on the capital improvement, the engineering, we're canceling $98,627. We put in the maximum that the contract allowed, and then that came in less. And then the change order that we had from Bergkamp that you approved a couple weeks ago, 11,154, is being canceled. So that's your total. I'm not sure why the total canceled by fund and the total canceled doesn't match, but there's probably an error on here. I'd like to real quick add these up and make sure that 157,566.20 is your correct amount.
Okay.
So, that'd be good.
I'm surprised I got yours for. I'm surprised I did too, so what can I say?
Okay, let me see what happened. So the total to cancel is the 157,566.20. On the total canceled by fund, that on the top column, the total canceled, and the 1480 and the 480 that you see at the top, they were included twice because they were already in this other total. So the correct total is 157,566.20.
You had it right, but you didn't have it right, huh?
Yep.
You need a motion to that?
Yes, we do.
I'll make a motion to
accept the
accept the
conferences.
canceled in the amount of $157,566.20 on encumbrances for 2017.
I have a motion by Kent to accept the 2017 budgeted encumbrances. So a second?
Yep.
By Randy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, just to clarify, that's to cancel the outstanding encumbrances. And
Hey, how are you? Good.
We did receive the funds for the sale of the tax credits on Monday, and so we need to sign the paperwork to transfer that tax credit to the bank that is purchasing them. This is just administrative paperwork because the purchase has already been approved
Okay.
by the board, so I'll just have you sign that line there. I have one salary sheet.
And this is Michelle Klenda.
Yes.
It's a 6-month pay raise for appraiser 1 in the amount going from 1878 to 1914, effective 2/16/18. Do I have a motion to accept this?
Oh, that's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
that's
thinking.
okay.
Sorry,
That's all right, you're just getting involved.
I'm just deep in thought here because it's like, I didn't, okay.
Okay. Did you already been here this? Yeah.
I sent in your packets a draft resolution for cold weather gear. We talked about this in December at our work session, and you had said you wanted to have a written policy. And so we do have someone that's wanting to turn in a reimbursement for this year.
That's right.
Susan, did you get a chance to look at that?
Yeah, I did, and I was fine with that.
Okay.
Sorry if I didn't get you about that.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't know if you wanted to discuss that. Let me find it. I need to get you a resolution number, but you had specifically mentioned certain things during that work session that you wanted to include it in that. And
Did everybody have a chance to read it? It
Yes.
was in your packet. You
Yeah,
read it?
I'd just like
Did
to
you read it?
discuss it a little bit too, because I think it clearly defines what we're looking at there, and, you know, it gives the person that's paying the bills, if it's not one of those 5 or 6 items, I guess that's what the commission would, if anybody else has any other feelings, well, I just try to make it easier so that people know what they're paying for, what to buy, what they will get reimbursed for.
Sounds pretty clear to me. Kent, you have any other thing to add?
Yeah, the only thing, it says Muck Boots, and that is a name brand.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
And lots of companies make those, so I don't know if it needs
What
to
is
be a
the
different.
proper generic term? You guys just said muck boots in the meeting, so
Oh,
we put it in
okay.
there.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it, it's just that is a name
Oh,
brand.
I didn't know that.
You can find lots of them, that are different name brands with the same thing.
Yeah, there is other brands, right. It's just,
So as long as we think of that in a generic way, and they don't have to buy Muck brand.
No, no.
how would you word that, Kent? You know, I wear them, I wear mucks when it gets snowy
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, it's-
Do they go over your regular boots or something?
No, it's a boot that you wear by itself, but it's got the height, it comes
Come
up
up
to your
about your
calves.
knee.
Right
So
to
do
your
we
knee.
need to have 2 separate boots listed? I mean,
Well,
can
they
it
are,
just
they're
be
two different
a
colors.
work / muck boot or something like that? I don't know.
They're sort of insulated for mucky weather, that's why they're called
Mud.
Kind of like mud, okay. I was gonna
How,
say
what if we
mud.
said mud boots?
Yeah, mud boots.
Yeah,
There you go.
Okay.
Let's say mud boots.
Okay, I can fix that.
That's for
Yeah,
someone
so
would say,
technical.
I gotta buy that, and then they're
No, you don't have
$20
to buy
higher
it.
than-
You don't have to buy it.
But mud, do you know, mud as far as winter is concerned, is that really cold weather?
Well, yeah,
here?
it's not, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
only thing.
they're
that wasn't-
insulated, you don't wear them in the summer.
Right, but what I'm saying is somebody gonna say, okay, I don't like muck boots, I'd like to have just a pair of overshoes? That would be a question that might come up, just to go over their regular work boots or something. For cold weather. So. I mean, it's a tough question.
Works.
I mean, you don't usually have mud in, when it's really cold out, it's frozen,
Yeah.
it's cold. So I'm just, I don't know, I'm questioning if that comes under cold weather gear.
Okay, I can take it. I mean, you tell me, you guys tell me what you want, and I'll take it.
You mean under the work boot?
How
Well, I
about,
think the insulated work boot is, does it say work boot or the
It says
insulated?
insulated boots and work boots.
Okay, well, I think that says it all, right there myself. Do we need mud boots too?
I don't.
I mean, not in the winter
Yeah, I can
time.
take it off.
Okay, that's
Take it off.
fine. I just, those were the specific things that were mentioned in that
Yeah.
meeting. So let me go take that off, and then
Okay,
this would be resolution 2018-07 when we do that. So we got 2 letters today before.
Oh, I told my husband, he has to put his name on it. Where'd you get that? He goes, I do. I don't know where that came from. He said, God,
Roger Hannaford.
oh. Yeah, but I don't know where that came from.
How do you not know that?
I know, jeez. I do.
you hungry, Andy?
Apparently,
Oh, it's done.
apparently. I don't know what's going on, I'm gonna have to start eating more, just been doing that, getting today.
Okay, so I took that off.
Well, Gina has a Girl Scout cookie, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve resolution 2018-07, the resolution extending the cold weather gear program for the county of Marion County for all departments, therein establishing the official policy and procedure for employees to be eligible for reimbursement.
Second.
Second by Kent, all in favor say aye.
Huh?
Motion carries. Okay.
The only other piece of administrative business that I have outside of other department business with people that are coming in for the agenda is a discussion about the Park and Lake position.
Okay.
So I don't know when you would like to do that.
We can take care of that right now if everybody's ready.
Yep.
Okay.
So did you want to do any sort of an executive session, or would you, are you ready to make take a hiring action in open session?
Let's take a 5-minute executive so I can just inform my 2 counterparts here as to what's developed over the last week or so,
Okay.
and then we'll come back and continue.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel, namely the hiring of the Park and Lake supervisor according to KSA 754319B for 5 minutes.
Second.
Second by Randy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
can I just leave the camera running?
Oh, that sounds like music.
And this is just done by a motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, through the applicants of the Park and Lake Supervisor, we have come to a decision of somebody that we feel will do well out of the park. His name is Mr. Isaac J. Hett. He is a K-State. Was he out here? I thought
He was earlier, you can go.
Okay, I'll see if he is out there. I asked him to be here. But he is a graduate from K-State. There he is, Isaac. And worked up in Alaska at a lodge for several years. Very anxious to accept the position of Marion County Park and Lake Supervisor, so I will make the motion to go ahead and accept or hire Mr. Isaac J. Hett as Marion County Park and Lake Supervisor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kent. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank
Thank you. Thank
you.
you.
Good
Well,
luck.
Can we just call him Isaac instead of Isaac J. Head?
Well, you like just Isaac?
Yeah.
Okay. And Tina will take care of your paperwork and stuff
Okay.
later, or however
Okay.
she wants you to do it.
Do we have an effective, do we know a start date or anything?
He's ready to start anytime,
Okay.
last week.
No retroactive.
Right.
Okay, good.
Oh.
I just remember him when he was a
You
seventh
do?
grader.
Mhm.
Yeah, my
Picture of
husband
him.
coached him and taught him and
Who is it?
he was
Oh,
in daycare
my.
with my kids.
He's
Wow.
the new guy that took the lake.
Well, that's good. I'm sorry?
I was trying to figure out who the man was.
The lake
Isaac,
guy.
Isaac Hett, the new Park and Lake Supervisor.
All right. Good luck to him.
Isaac J. Hett, known as Isaac.
Is he a local guy?
Yeah,
The head name kind of.
That's kind
Much
of
of it not have to be, wouldn't it?
yeah. It's Jerry and Lorraine. It's Jerry Hett's son, you know that.
Is he going to?
Yeah.
He's going that way. He can run.
There you go, Isaac.
I'd like to, just while we're talking County Lake, I have a phone call, and the board that does the bluegrass called me, and they found out that previous person had booked Lake Hall for that weekend, and it's all sort of usually kept for in case there's a bad weather, so they move the show inside. I talked to Tina, and she said she'd get a hold of Adam, and I'm gonna let her tell me what the verdict is so far.
Well, it was for a large family reunion, and Adam was familiar with the people because they've been out before. He said they're very nice and respectful group, and he was comfortable calling them to see if they would reschedule. And there was a weekend available later in the month, and that he has taken care of that, so there is no issue.
Cool,
with that.
cool. I'd like to thank Adam for doing that because it's something that had just popped up, but the group, I'm gonna attend the board meeting they have a volunteer board, and they'd like for me to meet with them. And all I'm gonna do is just sort of help them get through if there's any county stuff to where we can get through anything, so just like this little deal here with that, so thought I'd let you know what's going on,
You were
Diane.
talking about the bluegrass group has a
Yeah, the
board?
bluegrass group, yeah, so that if they got any problems with, and I'm gonna have to get associated with what all they expect from the county, because I don't know, just this was what I'd heard of, and this is the first thing, so maybe after this, they're gonna have a meeting Saturday, I believe, so I'll attend that and see what else they need from the county.
Okay. Anything for you? All right. So we are at 9:20. Did you have anything else to add to that,
Nope.
Tina? So the next thing, of course, is commission discussion on county health insurance. And I see we have a little
Yeah.
document here from you.
I just wanted to kind of go through, we did get, late yesterday afternoon from Bruce, you had asked for the 4-tier
Yes.
rate structure to see what that looks like. And at the back of the paper clip, that you have a couple of pages that pertain to that. And so, on the back side of the first page, you'll see the option 1, 2, and 3 in the center there, and then health, dental, and the total. You'll see employee, employee child, employee spouse, and family for all of those options. It's at the back, it's on this page, the back side of this page, which is behind the sheet that I put together.
And this is the total premium,
Per,
the total premium, from the insurance company. It's not just what the employee will pay.
no, this is the total premium.
Total premium.
Okay, and so then I've, so that, there's the one for the health, and then the dental is on the other page.
Okay.
Then what I have done on the spreadsheet, I can kind of go over this with you so that you can see the impact of that. So on the first page, I just have a breakdown of what we are currently paying, which is for option 1, 2, and 3. So you'll see you have 3 columns, three major columns. One is option 1, one is option 2, one is option 3. Do you see that?
Mhm.
And then in each one of those sections, you have the current amount, the renewal, which is the renewal that Bruce brought the other day, which is if we keep everything the same plan. And then also a column for the 4-tier renewal. The county, the main one that the county does is option 2, so I think we'll just use that as a reference. That's the $1,000 deductible. And currently, that is at $637.44 for health and $37.42 for dental. So health is on top and dental is the next space down. The employee pays $40 and the county pays the rest. And then it shows the renewal and then the 4-tier rates. We do not currently have family health for employee and children or employee spouse. We just have employee and family. And so still in the middle column, if you look about halfway down, you'll see the current rates of employee family for health, and then the dental is at the bottom. So I just did a comparison of the rates overall. You'll see on the renewal in the middle column of that family health, we go from $1474.62 to $1578.78 for that option for family, for health. And then if you go to the 4-tier option, you see that for family, that jumps up to $2,044.97 a month. Now, if you go up, you'll see employee spouse health is $1,365.88, and employee children is $1,314.94. You see, is everybody kind of together? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you see that's a big jump on the family, and that's just the health. The dental is at the bottom. But on the next page, I have outlined kind of the impact for the employees, and then on the third page, I have outlined the impact to the county budget for you. So if we stay on option 2, on the second page here,
Middle column.
middle column, the middle section there, you see the current for, and I've put it together, so the health and dental, you see the total premium and what they're paying. So currently, we're paying, the premium is $674.86 for health and dental for a single person. We pay $634.86 and the employee pays $40. In the renewal column, which is the next one over, if the employee still paid $40, that makes the county cost $695.40 at the renewal rate, which is, well, I'll show you that in a little bit. And then on the 4-tier, that actually goes down. It's a little bit less expensive, but not very much. You'll see we're at $674 and $670. Oh, it went up a little bit, excuse me. $676 is the new for the 4-tier. If you go to the next section down, where you have the employee, child, and health, I did go through, and at the bottom, in your bottom left-hand corner, it shows the number of, it's actually on the last page, it shows the number of people in each plan and each option. And I've split out the families based on if they have their full family covered, or just their kids, or just their spouse, and then which option they're in. So we can go through that in a little bit. But if you go back to the second page on employee child health, that premium, if the county keeps the same way of paying, so we would pay the single premium plus $200. That's what we currently pay for a family. And so we would pay $836.31, and the employee cost per month would be $559.23 for employee and children. They're currently paying $724.44. So that option is, is less for just the children. Same thing if you go down to the employee and spouse, you'll see that the employee cost is $616.56 per month for option 2. Currently they're paying $724.44. But then when you go down to the next section for family, the employee cost jumps up to $1,335.81. And they're currently paying $724 a month. So it's like a $600 increase per month for the family coverage if we choose this type of rate structure. And it's like that on all the options. I'm just kind of reviewing option 2 because that's our most common. So at the bottom here I have the impact per month for a single employee on option 1, 2, and 3. And so for the single employee on option 2, there is no impact because they would still pay the same as what they're paying now, $40 a month. For employee and children, it would cost them $62 per month more if we went with the renewal rates that Bruce initially brought. It would cost them $165 per month less if we go to the 4 tier. Does everybody see where we are? So an employee spouse, it would cost $62.29 more per month on the renewal, or at the 4 tier it'd be $107.88 less per month. But then on the employee family, the regular renewal would be $62.29 increase, and then the 4 tier renewal would cost an additional $611.37 to that employee per month for that. So it's a pretty big impact on the families. I kind of did a little synopsis at the bottom. So even if the county reduced on the contracts that have employee and children or employee spouse only, say we reduced what we're paying by $100, they would still save money from what they're paying now. But even if we double the extra that we're paying on to the employee and family, which is a pretty big impact, it'd be about $43,000 for the county to double that, but a total about $40,000 impact for the county to do that. But those people will still have about a $200 increase per month for the family coverage if we go to 4 tier. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So on the next page, on the bottom, you'll see the number of people and the number of families in each of the options. And we actually have currently 12 families that actually have their spouse and children on. So that would affect 12 families, 12 employees, paychecks. And now the others, we have 1 with just children and we have 4 with just the spouse. And so that'd be a positive impact for them, but a negative impact for these 12. On the back page also I've kind of got the impact on the county budget overall. So if we stay in column 2 again for option 2, if we look at what the county is paying, which is the $634.86, the renewal changes that to $695.40. Did everybody see that? And we're at the top section of the middle column. That would be, if you go all the way down to the bottom of that column, $60.54 impact per person for that renewal
Just
option.
for the renewal for what we have.
Yes,
Okay.
per month, per
Per month.
person, okay? If you go to all the way to the right, in that same section, the 4 tier renewal, that impact for the county, if we didn't change any of the pay structure or anything, it's $1.45 per person per month. So and underneath here, if the renewal increase, the $60.54, if we take that times 109 contracts and times 9 months, which would be because we would have to pay April through December at this new rate. That's a $58,000 impact to the county budget for that renewal. For the 4-tier renewal, it's just under $1,500 impact if we went to that rate structure without making any additional relief to the families. If the county did decide to pay an extra $200 towards those families per month and reduce the ones that would be saving money a little bit by like $100 a month, then that adds another $38,700. So the total budget impact of a 4-tier renewal, if with that type of a change in contribution, would be about $40,000. So that's just kind of an overview of the impact of the renewal to the employees
Right now,
and to the family.
all we offer is the single and the family, right?
Yes,
We don't
we
have
offer
this employee
single,
child and
that's
child.
right, that's right.
We don't have the employee spouse.
We've looked at it almost every
Yeah.
renewal. I mean, we've looked at it a lot of times over the past 10 years that I know of, and it's always like this. It's a huge amount for the employees and families, and it's just, so. That is the information that I just wanted to share with you. And
Okay.
what we're gonna need to know is whether you want to pursue a renewal, whether you wanna look at other options. Because if we do need to look at other options, it's a kind of a big process, and our renewal is coming right up, so.
Well, I certainly think we need to look at other options. I made several phone calls and stuff, and I met some people up at Kansas Association of Counties when we were up there in November. And I just happened to got some emails and stuff from them. One, of course, is United Healthcare. Now, last year we had, what was his name, Mark Isley, was it? Mark Isley, he was a broker, and he presented some options for us.
He's called me. I've had like 12 brokers call me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And, but I have two that stick out in my mind. Well, actually there's three, but I can't find an email on the third one, I'm sorry. But I have Aetna and I have United and their contact numbers. Now these are direct to the salesman. This is not brokers, this is just direct to the company. Which I'm told that if we go direct to the company, that we save money because the broker does of course make a bit of a profit on that. So I certainly would like to at least pursue and see what they would offer, because if we could get these premiums down, that's going to save our employees a lot of money, and the county as well. A 9% price increase is a lot, and I see no reason not to at least explore and see what. And I don't care if you want to go with a broker, that's fine, because I mean it's still better. But I don't know. I would.
Would one of them companies either or send a direct person out that works for them, or?
Yes, they both. These two right here will. They both have people ready to come out here and sit before us, do the same thing as what Blue Cross did, a complete. But they have a lot more options on both of these plans than what Blue Cross is offering. They have all kinds of tiers. Just in my snippets that I've talked to them and things like that. So the employees would have a lot of various other options that we don't now have. And of course, prices vary. Now I understand, and of course through what we learned last year, there was a period of time a couple years back that United had problems, there was no doubt. They had problems. But I understand that they got those problems straight, because they're the #1 company now across the nation, United, as far as paying, as far as services, and so on. But still, Aetna is good, and I do have something on Cigna, but I don't have it with me today. But I don't, it's whatever the board wants to do. If you want to go through a broker, or if you want to go individual in the companies, I have contact people here, and I've spoke to all these contact people. They're willing to talk to the clerk or come in and talk to us. So.
What's the deadline date, Tina?
Soon.
I know you said soon,
Our plan year starts May 1st, and we have to enroll everyone, and that takes some time. So we would need to do something soon.
By April 1st.
The latest. Yeah.
Well, that still gives us plenty of time, because I know any one of these people could be here at next week's meeting or a work session, or, I mean, they could be here right away. So I think the timing is fine to still get more options.
And I realize that employees don't know what's out there other than what they've had. They do like what they had. We heard that last year, very adamantly. But I think it is our responsibility to take a look, see if there's always maybe something we could.
Exactly.
You know, I'm not gonna deny that, because if we're, you know, I would say though, if we can't have something down here by next 2 meetings, let's see, 5th and the 12th, if we can't have something down by that, we're out of time to get things real close. I mean, we're pushing it pretty tight.
Well, I would even go 1 week further, even into the, yeah, because we just said April 1st, which still gives them a month, which even if we go into the 3rd week. But I don't have a doubt that we could have it next week, or,
Yeah.
I mean, all these people are more than willing to do what they need to do. But yeah, I agree, because the employees are, it's interesting because all the pay raises, and a lot of time we have to give the pay raises because so much of a bite is coming out of the check from insurance. So we're chasing our own tail, in essence, is what we're doing. So I think if we can start by reducing, and I'm not saying reducing coverage, because I want all the coverage we can get, because I know right now, and I just had blood work done this past week, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield is not gonna pay preventative blood work. Ridiculous. So if we can get better coverage at less money, we owe it to ourselves and to the employees to check it out, is my opinion. Kent, what do you say?
Yeah, I think we need to check it out.
Did you want some of this information that I have, Tina?
Do I need to make a copy of these?
No, you may have those.
Okay, thank you.
So we're in agreement that we're gonna check into other options, am I correct, so she can move on?
Yes.
And whether it's a work schedule that you have to set up or a regular meeting, probably a I wonder if we could do them and get 1 or 2 or so in a day, or is that too cumbersome?
We'll see.
Okay. Whatever the commission thinks.
Yeah, I think maybe just if you have a work session, put it late in the afternoon so we can focus on it and see what they have.
Yeah, because if we do decide to make a change, we need to have time with the employees so they can understand it, because, you know, like Randy said, they're comfortable with what they've got. A lot of people in this state have had Blue Cross and Blue Shield forever. They kind of know what to expect. Because, you know, that kind of change can be a little traumatic for some people.
So you're saying to educate them?
Well, we need to have time so they have a thorough understanding, you know, that we're not gonna cut coverages on them. I would not be in favor of cutting coverages at all.
We don't have many coverages to cut, the way I see what Blue Cross pays. I mean, that's just I'm negative against Blue Cross, I'm sorry, but they don't pay anything that I need to pay.
Well, you know,
Maybe I'm
and
old.
and I'm gonna, you're not as old as me, I don't know
Well,
how
you're
old you
right.
are. But I'm gonna tell you that I have a Blue Cross Blue Shield in Texas, and they do, so there is policies out there that will, but I just,
And it is crazy what you just mentioned, because even the city of Marion has Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and they have by far better rates. I don't understand where they draw the line or how they do that.
well, I think.
Well, I
Part
do
of ours is
understand.
our
I do
experience. We
understand.
have
Yeah.
some.
Yes, I just thought about that, yes.
Right.
Experience, rating.
Okay. Well, I'll be anxious to hear what other companies have to say, have to offer.
Well, it's our job to listen.
Yes. Any other discussion on the insurance? Hearing none, it is 9:40. Planning and zoning, I know Emma is out there somewhere.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey. Hey, you.
Welcome back.
Emma, how are you?
Good.
Please.
Oh, sorry.
You forgot.
Well, yeah, you've been gone too
it-
long.
It's been a long time.
The way that was situated, I wasn't sure.
I'm gonna throw a lot of paper at her.
Oh,
Tina.
If I see the list of names.
Well, I just have a,
Yeah, I don't know.
I just
Go
have
ahead.
a couple of things.
yes.
The first is, this is a property located just here west of Marion. It's just off of 190th and Nighthawk Road. And this property is owned by David F. And what he is doing here, they currently have a family wastewater system and they've proven eligible for cost share. It's a Clean Waters grant, and this is leftover funding from 2017 that is just now becoming available. However, the work would have to be completed prior to May 1st, so he does have a bit of a time crunch. Currently, the wastewater system is actually flowing into what is considered the floodplain. That's designated with the blue area there. What he is wanting to do is install the wastewater lagoon just north of the far west building. So as you can see, that area it's pretty tight, and what we are requesting is a setback variance. What we typically do within our Marion County regulations, it's a 100-foot setback from the neighboring property. The state requirement is only 50. So it would still meet the state requirement of 50 feet from the county right of way. However, it would be closer than the 100 feet within our county sanitary code. The reason that we have identified that location, I did meet on site with the property owner and also Marty Dahlke, who will be installing the system. And that lot is pretty flat in nature. And from the home to acquire the appropriate fall required, we would need to identify kind of that general northwest corner of the property.
Looks like it'll work.
So, yeah. I mean, we met on site. Marty was confident that that would be a good location for the system, for the new lagoon. We just need your approval to go within the 50 feet. So we'd be less than 100 feet from that county right away.
We've done that before, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We have.
Yeah, I think our rules need to change even, to tell you the truth. I mean, why have two different standards here if the state standards is 50 foot?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I'll be honest, updating the sanitary code is something that I know we've discussed, and it's one of my goals going forward is to update that document.
But she's had this problem. I mean, Tanya's had it before you. We've dealt with this where it falls in state guidelines, but it doesn't meet our standards. And I think some of our standards was put back in when we had zoning put in.
Our current sanitary code is from 1994, so it definitely needs to be updated. So, and part of the reason that that probably has not been done, it's a very involved process where a KDHE comes in and you work with them side by side to review every aspect of the code. So,
When do you think you're going to get started on that? I mean, 1994, that's a long time.
That was actually one of my 2018 goals, is to try to initiate that this year. It probably would not be, it'd be something similar to the comprehensive plan update. It's something where you initiate the process, but it probably would take, a good part of a year to complete that. So, if we initiate it this year, we probably would look at, possibly adopting something in 2019.
As long as we get started.
Yeah, and that's
That would be
something.
good.
Okay. All right.
Anything else, Randy?
So,
Any thoughts?
She needs an official action.
Yeah, if this looks,
Discussion?
if this looks good and you think everything will meet that, why, I don't see no reason why the board couldn't move to move to within the 50-foot setback. That's all you're asking
Yeah,
for, correct?
yeah, 50 foot.
Move the setback from 50 foot to right away.
Do you have anything to add, Ken?
No.
Okay, you make that a
I made
motion
the
then?
motion, yeah.
Okay, so Randy made the motion to go ahead and approve the 50-foot setback. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Is that a rule exception or a variance?
Variance.
Okay.
Is the way it's.
Anything else?
I would like to discuss personnel performance, if I could, in executive session for 10 minutes. Is that?
Okay. We'll go ahead and go into executive session for 10 minutes. For personnel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move that we enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 754319B for 10 minutes, did you say? 10 minutes with just the board
Minute, Emma.
and Emma. Is that Susan or anybody? Just us?
You know,
That's fine.
I was gonna say, doesn't,
Okay,
either
so
way is fine.
Emma and the
Either way
board.
is fine.
10 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Take two.
On to executive session. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I would. Our pay plan just don't exactly tell us, and we will be working on our pay plan, what happens when we have an administration step out and be gone for either Family Leave Act or something to this effect. So, we had in planning zoning, the lead person was out for 8 weeks. We're gonna attempt to do some other new ways. This might be a new way, but I think maybe a new way of a $250 gift card for a person stepping up and taking over that department and doing the workload when they're not on their job description. So I guess my motion would be for $250 gift certificate of their choice somewhere. That would be my motion.
Got a motion for a $250 gift card.
Yes.
Second.
Second by Kent. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Anything else, Emma?
That's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
And so now it is 10 o'clock. We have Lois Smith, 8th Judicial District.
Yes, ma'am. I also brought with me Nikki Davenport, the court administrator.
Hello,
Jesse,
Nikki.
Jesse Hebert is also here with the Hillsborough Police Department.
You want to sit up in the green chair? That's the
Do you mind if I?
Queen's chair, King's chair.
No, I don't need to sit in the green chair, but. Green chair. You're right.
Is it this bad that you have to bring Jesse and Rob both? or
Yes,
what?
yes, sir, it is.
Okay, all right.
What we would like to propose is putting together a training for the entire courthouse on an active shooter scenario type training. I reached out to the department heads throughout the building and the surrounding buildings just to let them know what we were looking at doing. It is a very dynamic training. It is a very loud training. So one thing we would like the commission to consider is giving permission to close the courthouse on April 13th from 8 o'clock till 2 o'clock. That request is to allow time to actually run through actual scenarios and then have training and debriefing, most likely before and after. We have done this training in 2 other courthouses in the district. It is a very good training. It is a very impactful training. It is a scary training, but when you come out the other end, I think you really have a lot of very, very good information, and it's very timely at this point too to work on some of these things. So that would be our request.
I like it.
I think it's very important.
I think we're giving our
Days that we live.
public enough notice to where the courthouse, we can put that in the paper, the courthouse won't be open till after 2, is that what you're planning on?
Yes, sir.
2.
Nikki, did you want to add something?
Well, and we asked Jesse Hebert, we've been working with Tyler Murmis and Jesse. They have been certified in the ALICE program, and Jesse, you can probably speak to that.
Yeah, basically, the ALICE program is a program set aside to train citizens how to increase their odds of surviving an active shooter incident. And let's finally go around here. So what I plan on doing is coming in here and just presenting the ALICE program. And the handout there, it describes what the ALICE program is. It's an acronym there, and it describes what each letter stands for. But along with going over the ALICE program, I want to go through each work area of everyone that works in this building and just look at what's available to them at a moment's notice for barricading doors or to use as countermeasures if they had to face an attacker. But I just want to help out a little bit with everyone that works in here, just to let them see what they have and how it can be used. And that is part of the ALICE program. So this is mainly going to be what my part is the ALICE. So
We did talk about running, what we did in Geary County is ran a couple of scenarios and made it as lifelike as we possibly could. And that's kind of what Jesse and Tyler had spoken about, those scenarios, and just kind of you know, and everybody understands that it is an exercise. You're maybe not sure when it's gonna actually start, because you don't want it to be, you know, you have to make it as realistic as
All of our
possible.
employees will be involved?
Correct, if they've chosen to participate.
No. All of our employees will be involved?
Okay. Yes, sir?
I mean, that's the way I feel.
I mean, and again, it goes back to each individual department. Lois did reach out and speak to those folks, and I do believe everybody is on board.
There
so.
were a lot that were 100%, that sounds great. Some were apprehensive. I tried to be a little reassuring that it's probably one of the most terrifying trainings I've been through. And I've been a probation officer for 18 years, and I was a Junction City police officer for 4 years before that. I can tell you that the staff that we work with in Geary County, when this training for us was in the morning. It went from 8 to 12. We went to lunch together as a group, and not one person spoke. It was that impactful. I had one of my staff members literally run through a bar door because he was taking it seriously. And in Geary County, they went next level with blank firing guns. And so they burst into the office, and we were told that this is a training day. Do your work like any other day. Handle clients like any other business. And if it spills from your office into the hallway or to another floor, go with it. And so we had active shooting in our lobby where we had to lock doors and people ran away. We thought we were done, and about an hour and a half later, we had another staff member get taken hostage in the building next to us, and he was brought into our office space, so we were going again. And until the scenario was done, it was the most lifelike thing I have ever been through. And when you're done and you talk about it, it shows you how fast it can happen, how fast it's over, and how you lose the ability to think and reason when your mind just turns off. It's very
Geary
impactful.
County also, I'll add to that they were also using this as a training exercise for their law enforcement and their some of their rookies and how they might respond to something like that. I don't know that that's the plan here, but that's certainly something that could be done in the future if law enforcement chose to do that. But people do have to be careful, though. I mean, you can have people running and, you know, twisting an ankle or something like that. So people do have to kind of use some, you know, we don't want somebody picking this microphone up and slinging it at, you know, the active shooter. I mean, people have to use some common sense. So there is some of that, and we give all that instruction at the very beginning.
It'll be, I mean, what she's describing, there'll be high-stress situations, but from the Alice standpoint, I mean, I want to be able to teach people how to think during a high-stress situation. We want to do mental conditioning. We want to role-play and practice a little bit. I mean, what I'm coming in here to do, I'm not coming in here to scare people. I mean, that's not the goal. The goal is if you hear something, screams, rounds, or something outside, just immediately you know what you're going to do instead of sitting in your chair and freezing. So that's what we want to do. We want to do some mental conditioning to where when that happens, if it does ever happen, we know, hey, I know just from walking through here, we got a safe in here that I can lock up about everyone in here, and I guarantee if someone's wearing a belt that they can wrap around the bars and hold it, and those people are 100% safe. That's what I'm talking about, going around to each one of these rooms and looking, how can we protect the employees that are in this building when someone's coming in here to spread carnage? So, yeah, it's going to be high stress for the simple fact that we're talking about people coming in here and shooting somebody. But I'm not going to take part in traumatizing people to where they don't want to come to work anymore. There is a potential for some airsoft play, airsoft pellets. We have safety gear and everything for that, but we're not going to come in here and shoot everyone up with those either. So, I mean, we want to have people have elevated heart rate and elevated stress so they know how they're going to respond in that situation. If they can't think in an elevated stress situation, we need to work with them. And we get everyone comfortable to think that way. So, I mean, what he described is a role, I mean, he was in it, so that's out of a role player's mouth. I'm telling you that I don't plan on scaring everyone. I mean, they're going to be scared just naturally, but the goal is not to come in here and scare everybody. So I need you to have that bit of comfort.
I was ready to run when you stand at the door.
Yeah. I appreciate that. No one ever else runs it. But
I think that's a wonderful thing. I think we need it in today's world. We need to be prepared.
And also there would be, I mean, we can share resources and I had my staff watch a video prior to, and it kind of gives you scenarios and lets you answer questions and that kind of thing, just to kind of get them thinking even, you know, we can give that information out even a month in advance to people so that they can start.
That'd be nice.
So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay.
How does the commission feel about everybody being involved? I mean,
I think we have to. I think everybody needs to be
I'd
involved.
like to see everyone involved.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just don't see any other thing in today's world.
I mean, we're probably gonna have one or two out sick or something, it's just, that's just the way it is, but if we can get, 95% of them
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, I think
Thank
we
you.
will.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, don't use the reporter as the barricade, okay? Throw me a Here, take her.
Yeah, we go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Chris
she's gonna
Ann.
make somebody for us.
No, we say, take Zorn. Yeah, no, just reporters.
I'm not sure we've ever
Just
met.
right there.
Board administrator. Nice to meet you too. This is Chris Ann Phipps. She's the new director for community corrections. And so while we were down here, I wanted to be sure and you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Diane Novak. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And this is Susan. What's the name?
And she's gonna be coming back to see us here someday.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So we will be, a few months probably.
How long you been in the
3 days. Today's the date of
Okay, so I won't ask you a question.
I'm so glad to
I'll
have
try to
her though.
answer. I just don't know.
I'm so glad to have her. Yeah.
Good.
Thank
Hey,
you. I have
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
You
Okay,
bet.
you too. We'll
All
see you
right,
guys.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're just about right on schedule. I see Jesse is out there, so we can move on to Road and Bridge with Jesse. Yeah, he's got a shot at it.
His other brother, Jesse, in a minute.
My turn? Take a bit break, we have 5. Is that what
I
you
think
need?
he wants time with
I
the
need a couple
board.
minutes with the board.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you want to get
Would
into
you
the
have time?
schedule. Okay. Okay,
You asked me
Jesse.
to bring some information back, but I did.
Okay, all right.
I'm just trying to
We'll
pick
do
my
it right
chair.
after Jesse. Go ahead, Jesse.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm not gonna tell you good morning, Steve. Tell us it's a good morning.
It is a good morning.
Okay.
Area fuel bids.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we got pretty much, we can divide these out, right?
These can be divided.
Okay, so area 1 and 2, as I see it, would be cooperative grain supply. Area 1 would be $2,920.40. Area 2 would be $4,057.95. And then I see that EPS on area 3 would be the lowest bid right there at $4,077.84, and that would be my motion.
Second.
Second by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 I have culvert bids for stocking order from J&J Drainage and Wellburn Sales. The highlighted part is the total number for both bids.
And this is it's a total bid.
Total bid.
Okay. You want to take the highlighted part is the,
Okay.
you see that? The highlighted part. On these bids. So having said that, I guess I would make the motion to go with JJ Drainage Products for $93,716.20.
Diane, you put specs out again?
Yes.
We've got policy now, we put specs out and
What you're looking at from Wellburn Sales with the Marion County, that is exactly what I had put out. The corrugation, the size, the gauge, everything.
okay.
Stenciled pipe, it's in bold letters up there in the top of the front page, so Everything is identified in that, yes.
Okay.
So when you accept either low bid, whoever it is, they will meet your specs?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you second it?
No, I haven't yet. I'm just making sure that that's what it's all, that we're all,
Yeah.
because we had that problem once before.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so do I have a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
Okay, second by Kent. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank
Do
you.
you need this or do
She'll make a copy of that, yes. I'm bringing this back from last week. I do have another quote. It's on the crack sealing again. We did understand it last week correctly. It did say 30-some thousand per mile, but it's actually, what you see is the total for that 10-mile stretch of Sunflower Road that I would like to have crack sealed. So what we were looking at last week was $350,000. So since I had the quote come in from Hall Brothers right after last week's meeting, it raised the question to me because they said total for 36, so we called Circle C and they had made a mistake on their quote to us last week. So they redid it, and but that was correct. It's $32,665 total for the whole 10-mile stretch. I was kind of hoping maybe we could reconsider, maybe possibly contracting that out for this year on Sunflower, seal up the cracks.
And I know we had also talked about our own crack machine.
Yes.
And that's probably not what it's called.
Crack seal machine.
Crack seal machine.
Sealer.
So, and you said that you were gonna have some people check into it, or you were gonna try to start using it, or?
Well, since the price was so high, yes, I was just gonna have to find a way to make it happen. That's the problem I have. We're already moving into other projects for the year, and I just don't see it happening for us. And that's where I find the trouble every year is finding the time to just get it done. For the price you see, I just don't know if we can beat it labor-wise. I think it's going to take us a lot longer with the inexperience we have. I still feel we need to practice somewhere with this thing and get a feel for it. But as crucial as I think Sunflower is with some of the cracks we have, I just feel we really need to knock that out this year. That was my opinion. But yes, with us having that machine, we've got to find some time to pick a mile somewhere and do it and go with it.
So you're saying that you have nobody in the department that knows how to?
No one that has experienced this, no.
No one.
No one.
Okay. And I was told that machine would save a lot of money. I don't know, I'm just saying what I was told.
Okay.
Didn't you say that was a 3 or 4 man operation?
No, for us it'd start out to be a 7 to 8 person operation. And then the more experience we got, maybe it could go down, but you gotta have your pilot vehicle, well, in front and behind your flaggers.
That's right.
You gotta have one running the air compressor and that truck pulling that air compressor. And then also the 1 or 2 people, well, 2 people for sure running the crack sealer, one pulling it and one operating it. So you definitely have 2, 4, 6 people already.
And how many days do you think it'd take to do that?
I have no clue. I just know that they can these 2 companies can take the 10 miles and get that done in about 6 to 10 days. I have a hard time believing with us being so inexperienced for us to knock it out in that amount of time, but I don't know. We don't have any experience.
How many miles is this, did you say?
10 miles of
This is
Sunflower.
10 miles.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I sure would like to see our people work on that machine and see if it would be beneficial. I mean,
And I agree,
would
I
like to
think-
know. I mean, we have it.
Yes, and I agree. I think we need to try it somewhere and get it going.
Well, if we tried it out, then we could maybe come up with some kind of a little bit of a cost analysis compared to bidding it out.
Yes.
And then we'd have a better feel for it because we really have no idea. Yeah, it's probably going to cost the county a bunch with that many people, because you're not just using them on there, you've taken them away from something else.
And what you're just reiterating, when you see the crack sealers, usually they're out there in the middle of summer, like Jesse was talking about, they do it in the winter because it's pulled apart.
Yeah, they want, yeah, it's, the furthest apart is your cracks when it's colder out.
Yeah.
So that's why they would like, these two companies like to get in here now or next month while it's still cool to get these.
And that brings up another question that I just thought of. This is where you're gonna put the oil on, right?
The oil in the
In the
cracks.
cracks.
In the cracks.
Yes.
Okay, and I was rereading some of the stuff that I had gotten from Norm Bowers on the oil. We use emulsion oil, am I saying that right?
Emulsion for chip seal.
And that is water-based, that has water in it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, do we ever look at the other oil? Because I was reading that from Norm Bowers, and even though it's a little more expensive, I'm pretty sure in his flyer that he put out, he's saying that on a several mile stretch, it's considerably cheaper to buy the better oil without the water in it. Have you thought about that? I mean, I'm not questioning your ability, I'm just asking. Because that's his, you know, when you put the water in it, it takes more oil than what if we buy it without the water in it. So, I think I read something like 3 to 1. You can do 3 miles with the other versus 1 with the oil, 1 with the water, sorry. I think that's what I read. I'm pretty sure, I think it's,
Because with the emulsion, I can go, I can get 3 miles done in one day. With the cutback, which is MC 800, which you're using to have diesel mixed in with it,
you can go further.
no, absolutely not, because you have to use more. I can only get 9/10 of a mile in a tanker, so I'm going to come out less with this cutback and MC 800 cutback oil with this more expensive. That is more expensive oil. The cutbacks are the MC 800. I'm going to get less mileage than I will with emulsion. And emulsion, that's why it's so crucial to do it during July and August, the hot months, 60 degrees and rising, for that water to evaporate within 30 days. It takes about 30 days for that water to evaporate. The other reason I like the emulsion is because it's a lot less dangerous. You're not dealing with diesel fuel. So if you have problems with your distributor, with it plugging up, you got to get the temperature so high that's why there's been all over the world explosions with tankers, distributor trucks, is because you're dealing with that diesel.
It's at about 200 degrees. I think I read 200 degrees.
For cutbacks, you're going higher. You're actually going closer to 300 degrees. Now with your emulsion, you're
comparing that
200
with
to
others.
160 to 200 degrees with emulsion. Just kind of depends on what's all going on, but yeah, you're a lot less lower temperatures with emulsion than you are cutbacks. As well as cutbacks, MC 800, the same person we get emulsion from, Ergon, he sells the cutback. So he's been in here before, and he would be more than happy to come explain the 2.2 U3.
You wasn't here yet, was you, when he come in last time?
No,
No.
it was.
Okay. He was very good. He's out of El Dorado where we buy our oil. And
Yes.
I think he could answer most of your questions, Diane.
Well, and I wish I would have brought it, and I wish I would have read it this week. This was about 2 or 3 weeks. I was going through some of that, and I was reading that about the oils, and I remember some of the things you said in these meetings, and I was just thinking something didn't kind of mash with me. So I was reading it, but I didn't know we were going to talk about it today. So I probably don't have all my facts straight, but it is something I'd like to be educated on it, because I think there's something, there's just something sticking in me that's not quite.
Then I will get him here. He'll be able to explain everything that you asked him.
Okay.
Would that
Just
be good?
education is always good to me.
He's very educated on the law. I mean, that's just business. Pretty nice.
Does Norm Bowers ever come to meetings and things? Could you have Norm? Because he covers such a vast amount.
He was here just yesterday in our office, but I mean, I would assume he would come in and sit in if his schedule would fit.
Okay. Because I read his. He puts out awesome flyers, all kinds of. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
That's
My
all.
main concern is how's it gonna affect your budget? Had you possibly planned for that in your budgeting process?
I always look at it, but with it being so much higher, I just go with emotion. You know,
But I
this-
mean, did you, in your budget for the year, were you figuring this in?
This,
So this is,
No, I did not figure
Okay.
this into my
so I mean,
2018
is it
budget.
gonna have
but
any negative impacts on the
No.
rest of your budget going forward?
No, not for this year. We had plenty enough that transferred from last year into this year. That's why
Okay, that's,
this number
that's my,
doesn't.
that's my concern. I
This
trust
number-
you on what you're doing.
Yeah, this number does not scare me to that effect.
I would just get to the point that I see in some of our, last summer, Jesse, in my opinion, we didn't do enough repairing some of our blacktops. And I think, going forward this next year, I'd rather bid this out and the same crew that we would have here be filling some of our sways, is that the way you want to call it? Swags, okay, swags, where you see it pushing our blacktop out on our roads. And we didn't cover the whole county last year, and so it's a big county to cover, and it's a big job. But I would rather have somebody come in and do this and have this same people that we're gonna have get on our swags in the summer, because we don't
Yeah,
have.
with that many employees,
Yeah.
you're ignoring some areas that shouldn't.
Yeah, so that's sort of my input as far as this is because I'd rather see what we wasn't able to get accomplished last year. I don't want our blacktops to go to pieces. I'd like to keep them up, so that's my input. If nobody else has anything else.
I have nothing else to add at this time, no.
Would you like to go ahead? You see 2 different bids. Carrie, go ahead.
You wanna make a motion? Do you wanna, anybody wanna accept it, or?
I'll make a motion to accept the bid for crack sealing sunflower from Circle Paving.
So
No.
Kent has made a motion to accept from Circle C Paving, $32,665. Is there a second?
Yes, Randy.
Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Diane, would you like to sign that bottom of that Circle C paving one for me? Or I got a different one right here.
I thought it was my copy.
Well, I didn't know how it would go, so I.
Tina gets it? You got a copy?
That's fine.
Anything else, Jesse?
The last thing would be is, how were phone calls with you three from last week, for ICE? Is there any discussion there? Does anyone want to talk about it?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Again, as I started 30 days ago and as I started a couple of years ago, we did get nothing accomplished on getting getting salt or sand trucks, spreaders, not the trucks. We got trucks, but we could put things like the state does and getting that accomplished. I've got pictures here of Harvey County, Marion County, McPherson County lines, snow on Marion County and ice, Harvey, Marion County, and McPherson, Harvey, Butler, and McPherson, the three counties that were my area, and they're all cleaned, and they're coming to our sanded or icy roads. We had Matt Voth from Gossel, fireman over there. He's in our book here, news book, but he pulled out 4 different people, and the people wasn't even going very fast, but the crown that we have on our road, when it's that icy, even going up any incline, you just slide to the hill. I had numbers from the south end of the county, east of Peabody, 2 calls from out in that area. They just can't understand why we don't do nothing. This year happened to be our only sand truck that has a sandbox. The pump or something quit on it, so that's why we wasn't even out, because I called Jesse and stuff like that. But we don't have it in the budget either for sand or salt. And so that's something that line items is gonna have to be put aside for it. I don't know what kind of money that's gonna be. You know, what kind of figure. I don't know what salt prices cost. We do have sand, and we have used sand on some of the roads, but anyway, that's my input. I'm personally, we had some spreader boxes approved here a couple years ago. Lady on Indigo, she moved out from the city, and then the ice storm hit 2 years ago, and she was livid. And I don't blame her, because she was used to having a clean road, and out here it was just nothing but ice for a day, 24 hours. This time it was 48 hours that we had ice on. So, that's my input. I'm willing to make a motion to purchase some things, either the spreader boxes and put in some of our trucks, or Jesse, as he called me yesterday and said he's got some news, because I said, look on the Topeka market, what the state has for vehicles and things, so
And
he's
did
got
you
some.
do that?
Yes,
I would say one other thing though, before you go into that, I had several phone calls too, of people pulling people out in actually all throughout the county and things like that. Of course, I would explain to them that it broke and so on. But, I like the idea of what you're about to say here, going with the state and getting used trucks, but what are you gonna say about that?
Purple Wave right now, March 15th, has approximately 20 dump trucks with plows, with spreaders. They have state trucks.
Used state trucks.
It ranges from Chanute, Garden City, Hutchinson. Hutchinson has about 8 of them sitting right there. We went to go look at them yesterday, but we called them first. You cannot look at them until 3 days before the auction. Unfortunately, they're not separating any of this out. It's the whole capoodle. We had already determined, when we decided to go with another dump truck, a new one to replace an old one this year, to go ahead, get the snowplow, and also one spreader box to slide in there. So we've already gotten, you got 3 have already approved us to go ahead and get that. So at least we'll be having one come in with this new truck. Now, the ones on Purple Wave from KDOT, none of them have over 200,000 miles on these trucks. We just got rid of 2 trucks, one at 600,000, one at over 800,000. So we don't know what if you were to go that route and get more spreader boxes, if we were to go to sand eventually in the future, you know, could we buy the whole truck for a certain amount and then use that spreader box and resell the truck with that plow? Or do you just keep the whole setup? What we don't know right now is how the hydraulic system is, if a reservoir needs to be added on, to our new trucks to make that pump work. We don't know any of that yet. That's why we wanted to kind of go look at them, just to get an idea to see if what we have is good on our new trucks right now, if we just got to add something else. I know we got to add a few things, but we just don't know if it's going to convert over. So do we try to take some money and buy these trucks and use the whole setup, or do we take the spreader box out, put it in our trucks, and resell the trucks? Because the estimate for a spreader box that Tom had come up a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that is approximately $20,000, and that's including the pump with it. So brand new compared to, okay, what if we bought a whole truck brand new with plow, with spreader, 20,000, and then go sell the truck and plow? Well, we just got some spreader boxes cheaper than 20,000, but yet, where do you draw the line of, you know, sell the truck and plow for 10,000 and, okay.
But I thought salt damages a lot on the trucks. I thought that was pretty hard on the trucks.
It does if you go to the bare metal.
Okay, so, that's when I brought it up here about 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about what I heard about KDOT having these. So if we can buy some used trucks for cheap money, I'm gonna say, and just let them set for this purpose, would that,
If we can get them cheap enough, and You know,
And we won't know till the auction comes up, right?
Correct.
Bid on several
all I
auctions.
know is the 2 trucks we just sold on Purple Wave. One was a 96 and one was a 2000. The ones that they have on Purple Wave right now, KDOT's selling is from 2000 to 2004. So our trucks were older with plows but no spreader boxes, and one went for 7,600, one went for 8,900. That's where I come up with a $20,000 number for auction, you know, with everything included. So these are a lot less. These are a lot less miles, a little bit newer, but also with a spreader with it. So I don't know which direction to go with this.
I'd like to ask you, do you think how near this $20,000 spreader box is, how near of number is that to the actual price?
I would have to ask Tom, but he got with KDOT and he said with the pump, give or take 1,000 or 2 each way. I don't know. Maybe it could be 25,000 after it's all said and done. You get it.
Did our mechanic get the spreader box fixed yet? You
No,
said
we're
that-
still. It's so old that the B&B is having B&B Hydraulic out of Hutch is having troubles trying to find a pump for our spreader right now. So it's still down. It is still down. So we don't know what the story is right now on that.
Did I hear you say that perhaps you might be able to buy a truck and all that stuff for $20,000?
That's where I came up with the
Thinking?
number just by what we just sold 2 older trucks for.
So I'm wondering why we wouldn't just run with that to get a truck and a blade and a spreader box for $20,000 when all you can buy here is a spreader box for $20,000.
Correct. I totally agree. I don't know what they'll go for. Maybe they'll go for all 50,000 or more. I
As
don't.
long as the units aren't wore out.
Yeah, I just
I
think
mean, there's a reason why KDOT, I think they have a schedule, but
But there's so much more to this. Okay, we decide to go with this. How many do we get? One's not enough for this county. One is not. I mean, we've been doing this little attachment spreader on the back of a bobtail that can't do near even half the county, and that's just doing intersections and curves. And then if we do get multiple ones, we really got to start talking about. We need to pay. I think we need to think into overtime for my employees, because let's say we get 3 of them. I'm gonna have to have 6 people, 12-hour shifts. If we do the salt situation, I'm gonna have to have 2 12-hour shifts running, 6 people total running those trucks, because once you start, you're not supposed to stop. And then if they build up all this comp time, I won't have no one for the summer to do what I need to get done, and my summers and springs are just way more busier than our 3 months of ice and snow,
Well, I think we're kind of jumping the gun there because we don't know what weather will bring us yet.
Correct.
I think the first step, of course, is to get the equipment.
But yeah,
Because we always, I've said to you several times, I think you need more employees.
Uh-huh.
With or without this, you're short-handed. Am I right?
correct. I mean, I can make it work, just
Yeah. So right now, I'm just wondering the most feasible way to get some trucks with spreaders. And I think it was Saline County that I had talked to a couple weeks ago, and they bought 2 from, and they were older trucks, but they work fine, and they just put them aside and let them sit for when they need them. Otherwise, they don't.
Salt sand.
Yeah. And they said they don't care how the salt eats it up. That's what they're designed to do, and they work fine. And for what they paid for them, I think they paid close to $20,000. I don't remember. But to me, at the price of trucks and everything, this would be a perfect way, at least investigate into it.
I also spoke with Joe Palak this morning about this whole. He's with KDOT right here in the Marion office, and Kevin Urok as well. Joe said he would like to come speak with commissioners as a KDOT employee and as also as a taxpayer, and he's highly advising us not to do salt. I said, well, you're not. There's lives involved here. I mean, I know we didn't have any deaths, but I mean, he did have a point as far as he feels our money could go towards bridges or something that is more beneficial to county than something that sits for most of the year, and then it runs 3 or 4 times whatever it may be during the winters. Who knows how bad of a winter you may have. You know, we've had pretty light winters the past 3
And
or
I wouldn't
4.
be in favor of salt anyway, because it destroy our roads so fast that we
Well,
never keep up.
So I don't know, you know, as a taxpayer, he would advise, he said, you know, well, and he was right. I mean, this was one of these rare occasions with this ice where it stayed between 28 to 30, 31 degrees. The sun never came out, and our roads were ice rinks. Now, granted, all the counties around us, we're surrounded by salt, by all other counties. Well, McPherson, they do brine, but yeah. Even Chase County's thrown a mixture of salt and sand. So, you know, I'm in favor of it, and yet I don't want us to waste our money either. So
You're just waking us up to there's gonna be more expense other than just having the equipment.
yeah, and then you know, I'm going far out, but you know, I'm thinking of wash bays. We don't even have washing these things down. We don't even have a good wash bay for these things. So I don't know. I'm trying to look at everything further out, and I just,
Even like you said though, Diane, even just sitting there, they need to be cleaned up, what he's talking about now. When it's done, you'll see a lot of time spent that way.
I feel we're in the era we got to do something more than what we are. I mean, I just want everyone to understand we did everything in our power last week to try and get the roads as safe as possible, but it just wasn't enough.
The great,
We didn't have Mother Nature helping us either with the sun. So
So whether we buy newer trucks or used trucks, we still have the same situation with the personnel. It makes no difference. That's just a given.
yes,
the great thing called Facebook, I was quoted 30 days ago on the first ice storm. I was quoted to a person, but I said that at that time we don't have trucks, that's set up for this right now. We would have to buy the beds or something to put in our trucks. We don't have a budget for the salt or the sand at that time. And so that person, now it's 30 days to 40 days later, whenever the second storm here hits, one of the phone calls I had the other night was from a person on the hill east of Peabody, and slid back down it because he was trying to go slow, but went off the side, so he slid back down. But anyway, the Facebook conversation was when I told him the other night that our truck was broke down. Well, I quoted the truth 30 days ago that we didn't have it in the budget. I told him the truth about our truck was broke down, but two people got on Facebook and said, well, that's not what he told me. That's not what. So my conversation 30 days apart was two different conversations, but it made me look like a liar. So, you know, I'm not a Facebook person, but anyway, that's what happened down there. But it's time, folks, that we do something. And I've got one more item to discuss with this. We have some money set aside for the county administrator that I believe would be a prime example to take some of that and buy some trucks and or sand beds, spreaders at this time to get started on this little project, and maybe the public can at least see that we're trying to take care of our roads.
Does Jesse not have money in his budget to get a truck or two or something?
well, what we budgeted was a used motor grader last year, a new dump truck with plow, and we're also getting a spreader with that.
So you have budgeted for a new motor grader this year?
No,
or a
used, but
used
see what,
motor grader?
yeah, and we bought a used high loader, which I don't need a motor grader yet. So that kind of took that out, but I also budgeted for new backhoe, which we're really in trouble of need of right now. So I budgeted for new backhoe, a used motor grader, and a new dump truck with plow. And then we've added that spreader on that you gave me approval for. So with us already buying a used high loader, which was close, well, we're 70,000 off of the $200,000 mark I set for a used motor grader. Anyways, I'm pretty much spent if I happen to go get a backhoe this year. So I really don't have the money in my budget, equipment budget, to go and get a lot of, these trucks and spreaders.
When did you say the auctions were?
March 15th. So we got a little time, but You know, and I only have 3 days before that we can even go look at them.
Sure.
So yeah, if we were interested in those, you know, I kind of need a number that from you three of, because on Purple Wave you can set a max bid and it takes it by $100 increments. So
When did you say the auction was? March 15th?
mhm.
Okay, so we have a meeting on the 5th and the 12th. So you could actually go look at them
on the 12th.
on the 12th. And we can even just think about this till next week a little bit before we authorize anything, because he doesn't even know if there's gonna be something there that he likes.
I mean, what, you know, some of the pictures we're looking at, it looks like there's going to be some that are going to be good. You know.
The other
So-
idea that I have is 3 trucks. I think you need one north, one south, and one in the middle, and at least cover our county and get started. If we hit another ice storm, we'll be sitting on our fannies doing nothing again.
Do you think 3 is minimum?
At the minimum, I think. See what it does before we go. You know, I don't know whether that can cover it or not. That depends on the storm.
Well, that's just it.
If it's a monster storm, a snowstorm, you're gonna have your graders out too. But ice storm is just a whole different kick out.
Then you don't have them all that, this was freak, really. I mean,
Yeah,
this thing just lasted.
This type of storm was rare compared
It
to,
is rare,
but
but
you know, like if we would have had salt, it would have done great for us because that was just the nature of this storm. KDOT's always frustrated with us because all the efforts on most storms that they have snow and ice removal, they'll get wrapped up and an hour or two later the county roads are done and clear and ready to go. And here they just keep thinking that they've spent all this money, time, and effort clearing their highways off, and Mother Nature did wonders for our road. So, you know, you have one of them situations that this last week that does happen, but it doesn't happen every time. So, you know,
I'll tell you what I'd like to do, just throwing this out, I'd like to have a work session. We had one on roads a couple months back now, I guess, and we never followed up on it, so we still have a lot of unfinished business there to talk about. And this brings up a lot of points, and I'm just wondering if maybe next week, if there would be a day that we could talk about the whole bundle. You're talking about if you get 3 trucks, look at the first one you're looking at there. And all of a sudden, try to put all this together, and then your budget situation. I mean, I'm not doubting that we need to do this. I just would like to actually look at everything and see how we want to do it and how many we want to do and what his budget really does entail, what we have to offer him. I just think we need to kind of put it together a little bit.
I'm up for whatever.
Yep, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, yeah, I just think we just definitely
It's
need
something
to.
that Marion County just needs to get gear. I mean, that's all it is I'm sorry that we've been sitting here for all these years and haven't done something. We've talked about it probably, well, when the first time we got this price was at least 2 to 3 years ago. Was that when the lady on the Indigo was? I think that's when it was.
I remember that one.
2 to 3 years ago, and you know, she just had moved out from the city and moved out to the Blacktop Road, expected to be cleared. And we, you know, I don't know, there was 3 to 4 accidents between Marion and Hillsborough on the old night, or 2 to 3, somewhere.
A
Couple there. 4 over in Gossel. Matt both called me about that, and he said, man, it's just so slick and the crown on the road. He said, we just need something out here. And so.
But Jesse can't do anything anyway, can't buy anything anyway till the 15th, can't go look at it till the 12th. So for us to take a day and kind of put everything in perspective, what harm is that? I mean, we're not gonna slow anything down,
I mean,
we're not gonna cut the county out of something, we're not gonna miss a good buy.
I think if we can talk,
I mean, you can get.
I
more
think he's kind of
information
right. I
back.
think we need to go with the minimum of 3 if we do this. If we do this, I think we probably got to start with a minimum of 3. But yeah, you're right. I can't look at them until the 12th. If you want to talk about it, maybe give me a number that day. If we do decide to do it, we got to come up with some kind of number so we can look at what trucks we're interested in, and we got to have try to figure out a set dollar, 'cause I don't know what they're gonna go for.
And you said they have pictures on Purple Wave coming up.
That's-
Maybe we could see some of those pictures,
We can print them
maybe
off
we
and
can just
Well,
kind
we can
of
pull it up,
compare.
you can pull it up and all that stuff yourself.
Well, I can, but I mean, if we're gonna talk about it as a group, unless you wanna do it individually. I mean, I
Can
just
we
assume we
brought
want
up
to do it as a commission.
I think the biggest thing is we need to figure out where we can move some money around in order to make it work. That's gonna be the biggest issue. I mean, there's no question that we need to do something at this point.
I don't think anybody's questioning that at this point.
Figure out how we can move some money around so that we got something to deal with. You know, I don't know if 30,000, I would think 30,000 to buy one, I would think, but that's sort of the high goal that I see sort of throughout, but I don't know.
I'm available every day except Wednesday next week, so if you wanted to do that,
And I'm gonna have to rely on Tom and Jesse, I don't know who.
I need them in here.
I need those two to make that decision. I mean, I'm not gonna see him, none of us three is gonna see him, so I'm just relying on.
You're not gonna pull them up and look at them yourself?
I'll get them printed out.
I've gotta rely on those guys no matter what. I mean, that's their job.
And see, I could pull them up and look at them too, but you know, you're zeroing in on what appeals to you, and I wouldn't know that when I'm doing it on my own.
Yeah, with all the hydraulics and everything, a picture's not gonna tell you a lot other than, oh, it don't look like it's all rusted out, and the wheels are bald, tires.
Yeah, and you know, there may be a better one sitting on, there in Garden City than Hutch. So, you know, Snoop, Garden City, Hutch, we're gonna have to look at our options there.
Put your two closest ones first. And
Yeah.
if you don't see nothing, those two, then reevaluate, I would think. I would believe that would be the simplest.
Yeah. So when,
I mean, I just like
yeah,
to
if
have
we-
a plan, that's all, I just like to know.
that's fine with me. Like I said, I'm available every day next week except Wednesday.
Would you like to just put a preliminary discussion on your regular commission agenda? And
do
then
that.
see on the 5th?
That's another option.
Well, we can do that. We, on this.
I can be at the
Friday-
end of the day if you wanted. On
Today?
Monday. No,
On the 5th.
5th.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that would work.
Or
That'll,
even-
that'll be fine. And, but we do need to pick up the road discussion. We left that hang. So we do need to schedule a work session for other stuff too. But that's fine if you wanna do it at the end of the 5th, then it's fine with me.
That's fine.
Still gives you plenty of time, gives us plenty of time.
That'll be fine.
Well, I know you're gonna wanna do a work session for insurance, and that needs to probably be,
Yes.
it's a little bit tighter time frame, and then maybe we could look at doing something for the roads a little bit after that, if
That's fine.
appropriate.
That's fine.
Maybe if we get down there far enough, maybe we can put them both together. Pick a day, afternoon or something.
Work for everyone?
Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Jesse.
Well, happy day.
Thank you for.
Okay, so, let's see, we are running a little bit behind, but did you want to come up and present something quickly? Rather than have you sit here and just wait?
Quickly, you asked me to come back with the numbers that I talked about last week about the part-time guys.
Yes.
This week, so I did. Basically, the hours we had down there were 30 hours, total man hours. Over the Christmas holiday, 25th, 26th, we were there a lot of other days, but just the two holidays was 30 hours that were covered there. The individual was released on the 26th, that late afternoon brought back. Of those 30 hours, those were just strictly the part-time hours. There was some full-time hours involved as well for part of that time. And that full-time individual had 8 the full-time individual already. So part-time or 30 hours. The difference between if I were paying a full-time and a part-time personnel is right at $1,000 for those 30 hours. If I were paying them both the overtime at the $12 rate or the full rate, because I'd had to hire or bring in somebody on their day off and pay them overtime plus holiday.
And your recommendation was that they get 8 hours Christmas pay?
That they get
Or
the
holiday
pay, just,
Holiday pay.
you know, like the others was what I was asking.
That would involve 4 people or 5 people?
I only had 2,
people.
no, excuse me, I had 3 part-time officers there. They split a majority of that between them. The 25 25th and the 26th at their age.
And you're saying those three come to $1,000?
No,
If he was paying
that,
us.
that pay with holiday pay would be $540 for those 2 days of part-time personnel with holiday pay.
Okay.
If I called in an off-duty officer for those same 30 hours with the holiday pay and the overtime, because they're gotta bring them in on a day off, we're looking at 1,500.
Where you're trying to do it with just 3 holiday pays, less than probably 800.
What is $540? $540. So we're looking at $1,000 difference by paying
Yeah.
those part-time personnel the holiday pay versus the full-time personnel, the holiday plus the overtime that they're gonna have to work to cover those shifts.
Then get there again, we're in a different situation, and every time it's a little different deal, but I sure in heck don't want Rob to call somebody because it's holidays, well, you're not gonna pay me any extra pay, I'm not gonna work this time.
So I would still go back to the same thing. I just don't like at this point until we work on our plan, to start giving one department part-time people holiday pay and not other departments. We're gonna have to do it across the board or not at all, because we're gonna open up a keg of worms. I thought about this. So I'm just wondering, at this point today, just like we did a little bit earlier, maybe a gift card or something out of appreciation, amount of money to these part-time people till we get our pay plan together, and then we'll consider these situations going forward that accommodates everybody for various situations to where we need to, you know, compensate people or show appreciation for going above and beyond. I'm just asking if that would be suitable for now, give a little, you know,
I hadn't thought
appreciation
of
gift
that.
card.
Honestly, I hadn't thought of that, so.
I mean, if we weren't getting ready to
I-
change the pay plan, okay, but I mean, we're gonna be making it, and I don't wanna get everybody's feathers ruffled right now as we go into that.
And I will say that predominantly, this office is where your part-time personnel are gonna come in big on the holidays, more so than other departments.
And I appreciate
Majority
that,
of it,
and we need to consider that when we make that plan up, to keep that in mind going forward.
I see one thing here that Rob plans, and as a part-time person in Rob's, you sort of plan as a part-time person on holiday, you know that's gonna be called on some of it, on the normal stuff. This was a situation
Yeah,
where it was not a normal plan, it was thrown in, person was arrested, thrown in the hospital and had to stay.
Right. The straight holiday, we just work a straight schedule, whatever it is, that's your day to work, that's your day to work, you know, it's just a fact of this career. Something like this came up where now still gotta work, but now I've gotta cover another issue here. So at that point, I've got to rely on the part-time help or bring in somebody that is on a scheduled day off, which now puts them into an overtime position, plus a holiday.
8 hours or 12 hours, was it 12 hours shift, is that what you worked?
Some of these were 7.5, some were 14 hours, just depending on how the two part-time personnel arranged it between themselves. You know, I'll relieve you at 6 o'clock in the morning, or
$10 to $12 an hour?
still had it was 10, but it should be 12, because they're both certified.
But they, at part-time, they earn 10 at this, I mean, they're regular.
Until they're certified, and these both were certified back in November, and
So they're getting $12 an hour now?
I hope so. That was bad to do so, because they were still at the $10 rate, and they never did get moved up when they became certified in November to
So
the
$10 an hour for, what'd you say, 10 hours?
30 hours
12
total.
hours.
30 total for the
But you're
2
talking
days.
3 different people.
3 different people. 30
Okay,
hours.
so 10 hours each person roughly, however it breaks
Yeah.
down. Okay, so then you'd be looking at, what, $100, $150 would be the holiday pay?
Yeah, time and a half, you know, the straight pay of $10 plus time and a half 50, so you look at it, you know, $150 for however
holiday.
you do the holiday.
They pay us time and half? That's normal, Tina? The holiday pays time and half?
No, that's,
No, it's only 8 hours, right?
Oh.
It's regular time.
Okay. It gets a little bit complex because the full-time people, they work a 10 or a 12-hour shift at regular straight pay, and they get 8 hours of holiday pay. If they only worked 8 hours, it would be like getting double time, is what it'd be like being paid at double time. But we've never done it. We don't do the time and a half thing, but that's a kind of a standard thing that you see in some other types of companies. If you work a holiday, you would get paid a time and a half. And on a part-time, it's difficult to put in, like, I mean, you could do it at double time. You could say if they work 4 hours, they'll get 4 hours of holiday, and that's double time. That would be similar to what we do with our full-time people. Or you could just say, we're paying them at this hourly rate. If they work these specific holidays, they're paid at time and a half, which I think would be appropriate to do.
And that's, simple and.
So it's not a simple answer to your question, but, so no, it's not standard to do time and a half. We're doing something a little bit different with our employees.
So I'm gonna ask the commission if we could do the same thing here that we just done to the earlier department for this one time, till we get our plan, to where we can go forward and have a set policy for everybody. To issue a gift card to these people in appreciation, which would be their same amount of money basically, but not call it holiday pay yet, because we don't have a policy for that for part-time people. So I'm asking the commission if that would be fine with them, and this way your people would be compensated. Am I right?
I'm sure they would appreciate it
Okay.
very
yeah,
much.
Yeah.
But,
So that would be my thought to handle it at this critical time until we get something in stone.
I'm okay with that. Do I hear another commissioner down there on the other end?
I'm fine with that.
It would be great if you could take some official action on that.
Okay, I'd make a motion, to give to 3 people involved here for this situation due to the hospital inmate, that we pay $150 gift certificate of their choice to them for this incident.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Ken, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion carries, is that okay for now?
Thank
And
you.
we'll include it in our plan,
Yeah,
so we
that-
can better,
Yeah, I'd
as
like
we
to
go
have
forward.
something going forward, kind of know what it is. It's not a huge financial burden to my office because we don't typically schedule them for holidays, but on the time that we do, I think they deserve.
And I don't doubt that, and I know it's not a big expense to your office, but it wasn't a big expense to
Right.
the office that was here earlier either.
Right. So, understand.
Okay.
But I would also like to leave that they typically, when they're hired as non-certified part-time, they're 10:15, 10:30. Once they become certified, then they go to 12 with the other part-time. These
So
two
are they
individuals are
sheriffs
certified
now?
now, yes. They went to school and graduated in November, became certified. So therefore, I would ask to move them up to the certified rate of 12.
Okay, so what we have here is Mr. Donald Keyser, am I saying it right? Okay, from the $10.20 to $12, effective 2/21. And we also have Mr. Doug Dick, from $10.20 up to the $12, effective 2/21. Okay.
Is that the 80-hour school?
Yes, that's Hutchinson,
80 hours.
Kelly, TC. They both.
I have a soft heart for sheriffs.
Once they're
When you need them, they're there. And that's important. Thank you so much for being able to work with us. We're just on the fence here, which way do we,
Understand, just,
being fair is sometimes tough, because every situation is unique.
yes. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ron.
Okay, so next on the agenda then we have, let's see where we left off here, we have Ashley Gann, Family and Communities Together.
Oh, Ashley.
Is she out there?
Yeah, she's standing up. I just need to let
She's
Rob
there.
through.
All
Ashley,
righty.
come on down.
Hi, come on in.
Good morning.
Hi.
Have a seat right there in the green seat, the
Oh,
green chair.
fine.
Yeah, how about that?
Fancy seat.
Fancy.
He used to just get us that right there.
Moving up.
Yeah. Well, I mainly just wanted to come give a quick update with FACT, and I don't think I've met you two commissioners.
Kent Becker, nice to meet you.
Yes, and I think my husband knows you, Chase
yes.
Gann.
And Diane Novak.
Okay, nice to meet you, and I'm Ashley Gann, and I was the Director of Families and Communities Together for about 3 years, 2012 through 2015, and then I stayed home with my kiddos for a couple years. We had a director who replaced me, and then her contract ended in June of 2017. So from June 2017 until January 2018, we didn't have a director. But I did agree to come back part-time, which is what I'm interested in for now because my kids are still pretty young. But we're back in business and helping families and trying to pursue some grant funding. And I just want to thank you all for your support because you continue to support us. I think we're in the budget for $6,000 per year to support us, so that's nice, and we're thankful for that. I did provide a financial update via email, and I think that's up here on the screen. So we have the school districts who support us yearly, and then the county, and I'm working right now with the cities to see if they can start supporting us too, yearly. We also have the Special Alcohol Tax Fund that comes through FACT, and our Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition manages that. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I was gonna call you a liar, cause you told us when you left, you were just gonna go enjoy the world, you wasn't coming back.
I know, right?
Good to see you back.
Is Todd Hedgeschmidt on this
He
organization?
is, yes.
Okay, because I think he came before us at budget time.
He did, because we didn't have a director at that time, so he was just trying to make sure that it was gonna continue to happen. We were working together at that time to figure out a solution for, because I really just want to be part-time,
I
so,
see. Okay,
yep.
all right.
And Susan's actually on our board now. She just recently joined, so that's good.
Well, that's great. That's why
Yes.
you guys do such good stuff.
Yes, thank you. So I'm only in the office 2 days a week, but I do have my work cell phone. I can give you guys some cards here. So if there's a need, we do whatever needs to be done for families. Oh my goodness. So they can call my cell phone even if I'm not at work. And I can try to refer them into services or help them, whatever we gotta do.
Okay, sounds good.
Alrighty. Well,
Good to
thank
see you
all
back.
Thank
for
you.
your
Good
time.
to see you back, and, you know, what is, you're part-time, are you gonna help sort of look for a new person to full-time, or, no?
No, I think I'll do
Board.
part-time, but, because I can just do the FACT part-time, as long as I'm on call.
Okay,
But if we do get the big grants again that we had before, like the early
Okay.
childhood grant, I'll probably write in a coordinator,
Okay.
so that I don't have to be project director of all the grants.
Okay.
So we can just work together and partner, that's the plan,
cool.
so. And then when the kids get in school, full-time, you know, in elementary school, then I'll probably
Okay,
look for full-time again,
Okay.
so.
thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome, thank you guys
Thank
for your
you.
time,
Have a good day.
you too. Yes, you
Yeah, I
can.
would like to. I'm sorry, you put them back, and I was like,
Is
"Ah."
David
I know, it never-
Carberry out there?
I know.
Here he comes. Hello.
Morning.
Hi, David, how are you? Yes.
You're graduated. Some people couldn't hear, so that's why I put it down here so the voice would carry that. Okay.
That sounds good. Oh, did you get the latest documents?
He
that
knows,
John emailed?
he knows.
I'm looking for the agreement right now. I have the resolutions, and I've got those, I just wanna go check it. I didn't have the agreement.
You know, the agreement didn't have to be approved today, it just, the second second
I've got
resolution
both.
authorizes it to be signed, it's finalized.
Well, I was just gonna peek and see if I have it. If not, we'll skip over that, but
Okay.
we'll do the resolution.
Sounds good, I'll wait for Tina to get back.
Okay.
I do have a handout here. There's a bunch of numbers in here, and I won't go through them all in detail. I'll just kind of point out a couple of numbers as I'm going through some of the other stuff. If you do want me to get into more depth into the details and the numbers, I'd be happy to do that, but just wanted to provide you some of the preliminary calculations.
Oh,
Well, I didn't know that I would be sitting here when we closed it too. I knew I was lucky to sit there when we started it, but I didn't know when.
There would be stuck in, I know, I was thinking about,
It's neat.
it's, yeah.
It's a neat deal.
Turned out well, at least in terms of getting the tracks done and project completed and canceled, so.
I do have that document, it's being printed right now.
Oh, great,
so.
okay. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. It's, I think this is kind of a neat day today because I think it kind of is gonna prepare, or, provide some closure to a project that started, oh gosh, about 8 years or so ago, 8 or 9 years ago. And that's the completion of the financing for the jail project and the cancellation of the associated sales tax. In order to do all of that, there's going to have to be a couple of actions that the commission will need to take today, and specifically 2 resolutions. The first resolution that you have in front of you would be a resolution that requests the Secretary of State to terminate the half-cent sales tax that was approved in 2011. And then the second resolution is a resolution that authorizes an escrow account to be set up. That escrow account will contain money and U.S. Treasury securities that will be pledged towards paying off the old bonds. In order to cancel the sales tax, you have to have money set aside sufficient to pay off the old bonds. So that's what that second resolution does. But to kind of put some numbers to things, if you look at that handout that I provided to you, if you turn over to page 1 here, what you'll see on the right-hand side of page 1 of my numbers is the remaining payments that are due on the outstanding jail bonds. And you'll see there that there's principal of $1,890,000 that's due, and those bonds run out to the year 2023. Now those bonds are actually callable later this year. They're callable in December of this year. So if the city wanted to pay those bonds off on their first call date, if you look at that yellow column there called debt service to call, you'll see that there's 2 payments that would need to be made. The interest payment that's due on the bonds on June 1, which is $19,230, and then a big payment would be due on December 1 of 18, $1,909,000, and that would make the regularly scheduled payment that's due on that date, as well as it would call all of those other bonds. So in order to consider these bonds paid off, we're going to need to set up this escrow account that I mentioned, and in that escrow account there's going to have to be cash and U.S. Treasury securities in an amount sufficient to make those 2 remaining debt service payments. And the rest of these numbers are essentially, it does a calculation of how much money would need to go into that account, what securities would have to be purchased. And what it really kind of boils down to is that in order to create this escrow, to make those payments and to pay the related costs of setting up the escrow, if you turn over onto page 5 there, you'll see it's going to take a contribution of $1,913,945.49. And this could change a little bit, but that's pretty much close to what we need. And as I understand it, once the county received its sales tax at the end of February, you should have enough money on hand to now make that payment. So you have the money on hand. We just need to now get this escrow set up, and once that's done, we can then notify the state and cancel the sales tax. So that's what we're here today. Are there any questions? Okay.
There's one other action too that we need to take, and that would be to approve the consulting agreement.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
To provide the services.
Yeah, there's a few people that are going to have to help out on this to get the transaction completed. We would provide basically the consulting services to organize it and to do the calculations. We'll also need John Small, bond counsel. He's the one who prepared these resolutions, and he's going to provide an opinion that says the old bonds have been officially defeased. We also need an accountant to verify that these calculations that we made are correct and that the money and the securities in the escrow are going to be sufficient. We also then need a trustee bank that will actually hold the securities, will purchase the securities, hold them, and send in the call notices to pay the bonds off. So those four services together will come up to a little under $8,000 of expenses, and those are itemized on that last page of my handout there.
Who does that calling there on that given date? Who does that actually? Do you start it, or does the bank start it?
What the bank will do is the bank will, they will send a notice to the state treasurer, who is actually the one who pays the bonds. And so the bank will send the notice to the state treasurer, and then the state treasurer will actually notify the bondholders about the call. Yeah. And as far as the firms that would provide the services, I've talked to a couple of a bank and an accounting firm that are both very used to doing this kind of work. It really is sort of a specialty area. It's not something that most trust departments or banks routinely do, or accountants for that matter. And I got these quotes. Security Bank of Kansas City would serve as the trustee for $1,250. And then there's an accounting firm called Robert Thomas CPA would do the actual escrow verification for $1,500. So those are the other firms we've lined up. Now, I'd be willing, if there's other companies, banks, accounting firms you'd want us to talk to, I'd be happy to do that. But like I mentioned, this is kind of a specialized area of expertise. We need to make sure that they understand how to purchase these securities, how to send the call notices in, how to verify the escrow, and these are just firms that I know can do it, and it will be sufficient. It'll be smooth, and we won't have any issues. So.
I have no questions.
No, I have no questions.
Would you be ready to move forward with an official action to approve the consulting agreement first? Okay. With David. Do you have the
Yeah, I've got
original?
some.
copy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some copies here.
I guess we should.
Oh, here. I think I got one more. There you go.
You ready for a motion?
Yes, if you're ready, go ahead and make one, go
I'll
ahead.
make a motion to approve the consulting services with the George K. Baum and Company, Kansas City.
I second.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Real.
And I think they're in place to sign.
On the back page here. You can sign.
All of them?
You'll need to sign probably two.
One for me and one for you, so,
Yeah.
and I can sign the other place. Each of them.
Or even if we just sign one, then we can just do a copy and stuff.
Yeah, I just need a copy.
But she was here a long time.
And the next one.
There you go.
That'd be great, then we'll get a copy, or a couple copies. Okay, then next we have resolution 18-05, which is requesting the termination of the half-cent sales tax.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept resolution 18-05, resolution requesting the Secretary of Revenue to terminate the half-cent sales tax, countywide retailers' sales tax to finance the cost of the new county jail. So I have second by Kent. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3-0.
Looks like it has some choosing. Getting rid of that more big thing.
Yeah.
I didn't go back and look. I think this is at least a couple of years earlier than we had originally anticipated it would be paid off. It is.
Okay, the next one is Resolution 18-06, authorizing the execution of the escrow trust agreement.
Make that motion to 18-06 to authorize the execution agreement.
A motion made by Randy, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent, all in favor say aye.
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 Congratulations.
And the bond for the tax will change as of July 1st.
Right, yeah, you have to give a full quarter's notice, have you talked about that before, to the state, and as long as we get everything in by April 1, we're in good shape.
Okay, and that resolution also authorizes Diane as chairman to sign the escrow trust agreement and myself as well. So I have that ready to sign as well.
Oh, closing up, is that everything?
That, for my end, yeah, that's it.
Okay. And is it okay to take a moment for he and I to get our copies?
You want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
You want to take a 5-minute break?
It was a lot easier to close out than it was actually gonna go in the first place.
As to the rest of the money.
Oh, I wanted to be here
July,
for.
or
Oh, me neither.
That was a nice stretch. Leg stretch.
Catch any fish? Haven't been. Any fish? It's sort of interesting on, it's a whole new deal on our trucks and stuff and things. But man, I've been many times over the last few years, but when you get a 24-hour period of this ice and stuff. And then the Facebook deal the other day, I heard better.
And I didn't see it because I haven't been on.
Well, this is, and it was two good people talking. I told one 30 days ago that we didn't have it in the budget, and then the other day when the storm hit, I said, well, our sand truck broke down. When they got to talking on Facebook, it sounded like we lied to us.
Yeah, Facebook is a unique animal.
And so,
And I always try to propose stuff I can question.
yeah, and there's a man here, there's a time frame where this was right here, this was right here. But it looked like it was lied to him. So I got to call him personally and say, here's the deal.
Okay, so we're going to continue on with our meeting. Our clerk is here. Next we have the Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism. And who's going to be our speaker or our first speaker?
I guess I'm the first speaker.
You got the green chair.
Green chair, all right.
Yep. The floor is yours.
Mine, all right. It's my first time doing a meeting like this. Welcome. My name is David Breath. I am the Fisheries Program Specialist with Wildlife Parks and Tourism. I basically coordinate a lot of the fisheries programs. The one here we're going to talk about today is the Community Fisheries Assistance Program, which is a fantastic program. It's one of our biggest. Normally when I talk about it, it takes me at least an hour. So I'm going to try to do this for like 5 minutes here, because I'm just trying to talk about what the program is and how the county lake fits into it. And then after I'm done speaking, Craig Johnson, biologist, is going to come up and actually talk about the fisheries management. The first part of the Fisheries Assistance Program is it was designed to remove financial barriers for anglers to access fishing properties and counties. So it's a partnership between the state and the community, whether it's a county or a city, to open their waters to angling. So instead of charging a permit and generating revenue, the state comes in using a sport fish restoration grant and pays the community an annual payment. In the county, in Marion County's instance, it was because of the size of the lake, and you guys were charging a fee at one time. that annual payment was negotiated through the revenue and stuff like that. So it was a win-win. As far as when the contract was first signed, the payment was created. As far as the partnership goes, the community and the state enters into a contractual agreement, but the anglers are the customers, and that's what we have to keep in mind, is that this program is to provide fishing access for angling. So the community cannot charge, through this program, the community cannot charge anglers to additional revenue to either fish from the shore or a boat. If you have another permit system available for camping or whatever, that's fine. But if they're actively fishing or intending to fish, you cannot charge an additional fee. And it's worked out great. We have over 120 some cooperators. It's a big program. It's won various awards at the national level. So we're really proud of it. It's been really great.
120 in Kansas or just?
120 in Kansas. Over 120 communities in Kansas are involved in this program. But there are some provisions that are in place. Again, can't charge people, anglers to fish your property. It also maintains that the owning property, the county, would have to keep the property at its current value by just everyday maintenance, mowing, clearing debris from fishing piers, repairing docks, opening acts. Just make sure that the property is still maintaining its value. It just makes sense. We're entering into a contract in the future years, so we just want to make sure every year that property maintains that value. And then you have to document those expenses, which the county's always been good with. Even in the last few months, we've been kind of turning over. We've still been getting those reports, so thank you for that. It's been really good. And then the other thing is, you have to recognize that KWPT is the manager of the fishery itself. We're not managing the property, we're managing the fishery. So anything that does with the fishery, whether it be stocking, habitat, vegetation, etc., you need to at least defer to us for our guidance, especially the biologist, Craig. We're there to help you with stockings, we're there to provide stockings if that we can, habitat plans, vegetation plans, stuff like that. But the fishery itself is all we're really concerned with. The property around it is still the county's, and it's their responsibility to develop it, maintain it, whatever that might be. We do have a grant program that helps develop the program or the property around the lake, but it has to be a project geared towards angling or angler access. And I think the county has received several actually in the last few years for that reason. So, and I'm not going to get into the details of that today, but if anybody ever wants to talk about those, I love talking about grants because it's all about getting people out to fish, and these amenities help do that. I guess are there any questions? Like I said, this was very brief. I usually talk for about an hour or so, but is there any questions about the program itself? Or,
well, whenever the end is, I have some anglers that wants to know the type of fish that we're putting in.
Yeah, Craig's going to cover all of that. Yeah, I'm just here talking about the program itself. We had a lot of questions about what is the program, how does the county fit into it.
Okay.
This is it, so I'd be happy to talk about anything else. Any questions?
Are you the one that talked about the habitat and okay. Got it.
So yeah, I'm here to talk. Paperwork, participation. We can talk about anything you want to talk.
You want to talk about the renewal part of it?
Sure. Yeah.
Deadline
Thank you.
in December and
yeah.
the
So
status of it.
the county's been enrolled in the enhanced leasing aspect of it since about 2005, I believe. And they've had like 3 contracts since then. Your last contract expired December 31st of 2017. So we need to get you signed up again if you choose to do that. If you'd like to, I have paperwork here. I was going to leave it with you today to go over. Probably sooner than later is better, so we can get you guys back into the program. So
I haven't heard no reason why we wouldn't.
the contract paperwork has changed because we had to update some federal language and update some things, but the provisions are the same, and everything I laid out are early when we can. The reporting's down to only 2 reports a year instead of 4, which has been welcomed by our volunteers. So,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate the program that people can bring their families here, fishing the Higa Dock, and it doesn't cost the family a lot of money. It's a super program for the state and for our community.
We believe that as well.
Berlin Uric.
Yeah. it's been helpful statewide. We have all the way up in northwest Kansas, southwest Kansas, everything. So.
Cool. Any questions,
No,
Ken?
no, thank you.
Yeah, any questions? There you go.
My name's Craig Johnson. I'm the district fisheries biologist that covers Marion County as well as 4 others. I've got 4 other counties, I guess. So I've got the city or county lake out here, and I also have the federal reservoir that I work on. I've had the lake in my district since early spring of 2015. I've been in El Dorado and working in this district since 2003. But I'm still kind of new to the lake, but kind of not really. But I guess I'm here, had a few requests of information that I was supposed to bring, so I didn't really bring a presentation. I guess I'm here to answer your guys' questions that you might have. It sounds like you've got a couple. I brought some sheets. You just want to know what it has been stocked in the lake over the years. So if you want to take one of those and pass it down, there's the last 10 years of stocking records. I can go back a lot farther, but a lot of our Kansas fish don't live a whole lot longer than 10 years, so that should be one that may have the potential to still be swimming around the lake. But you'll see through that, mainly 3 species have been stocked over the last 10 years, and it'd be channel catfish, sawguy, and also wipers. And there's several reasons for most of that. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish with your fisheries management plans, of course, but the channel catfish are ones in smaller lakes that the harvest on those, they normally come out quicker than they can naturally reproduce. So we do supplemental stockings with channel cat just to keep their numbers up. When you get into the other 2 species, they're more of a predaceous type fish. You know, you look at wipers, normally we use those to keep the gizzard shad in the lake under control. Overabundant gizzard shad end up tying up too much fisheries resources that begins to really hurt your young of the year production and everything else. So too many gizzard shad is not a good thing, because gizzard shad, contrary to what a lot of people think, gizzard shad do get 13, 15 inches long. And when you're a 6-inch crappie trying to eat a fish this big, that doesn't work. So we use the wipers to manage the gizzard shad, to keep the gizzard shad producing good annual spawns. We want little shad in the lake, we don't want big ones. So the wipers do a good job of that. Sawguy, on the other hand, they're good at eating crappie. That's why we keep them in there, because they'll, again, too many crappies not a good thing. If you get too many crappies, they all end up being about the size of potato chips. And most anglers don't like them this big. They like 10, 12, 14-inch crappie and things. White crappie, which is what's mainly out in the county lake, they're very prolific. They do have a tendency to overpopulate. So usually we use sawguy to keep those numbers down. So it's a really kind of a balancing act there. Do you have enough fish that are of good sized, or does it get tipped the other way to where you've got too many fish? You know, anglers never say they want more smaller fish. Anglers always want more and bigger. So it's kind of a balancing act. And since you're dealing with 150 acres of water, it's, you know, there's not a cookbook recipe of exactly if you put this many fish and this many fish. By the time you get through with all the flushing events, if it rains too hard and blows fish out, it kind of changes. So it's not a direct, super duper cookbook every time. So you kind of have to adjust that. It's management. It takes years to do it. So since I've had the lake, a lot of the anglers have told me they want to have more crappie in the lake. Currently, they've been worked on pretty good. As you can see on the stockings, there's been a lot of sawguy put in the lake the last number of years. 2014 through 2016, the lake participated in a diploid, triploid sawguy study that was done by our agency just to see which were better between those fish. So that's why we had 3 years of stockings there, and we actually increased the stocking rates. Those are fry versus fingerling. Fry are 3-day-old fish. Fingerlings are several months old. They're a little bit bigger. So if the numbers look really big, you also got to see what size of fish that are going in there too. So we had 3 years of basically double fry stockings on those. And basically what we found out through the study is the diploids, even though the triploids, even though we stocked a lot of them, their survival wasn't near what we thought it might be. So it's not like we blew the lake out with sawguy or anything like that. If you look at the sampling data that I have, there's not a whole bunch of sawguy in the lake. I didn't mean to throw everybody off. Sawguy do eat crappie, fish eat fish type of deal, but it's not like we had too many sawguy eating up all the crappie, even with those 3 years of stockings going on that. So. Wiper stockings, the last wipers that have been stocked were in 2016. I did not request any for 2017. I have not requested for 2018. Just a lot of the stuff I've heard from anglers out here, they want more crappie. So We've looked at, back in the fall of 16, I talked to Steve Hudson, at the time lake manager, and he was relaying information to me as far as what anglers wanted, and I was working with him as far as the lake manager, as far as what we could do. We proposed, and it went into effect January 1, to change up the largemouth bass link limit. Anglers were wanting more and bigger bass on that too. It's been managed with the 18-inch link limit for many, many years, and sometimes you get into a rut, so to speak, even with fish management, that those fish will kind of stockpile under that, and you get too many fish, and they're all smaller. There's not enough resources or food for those fish to maintain good growth rates and keep growing into those larger link groups. So we went to a slot link limit, protective slot link limit on that went into effect January 1, and we've also already dropped the crappie creel limit from the statewide of 50 a day down to 20 a day. So most of the stuff I've heard in just the last number of weeks and everything, we've kind of been working on since fall of 16 anyway. So I guess on that, that's kind of where we're at in the current status of things, and some of the current changes we've done with the stocking requests and stuff as well. So I guess from there on out, I'll take any questions you might have.
What is, I see no crappie on here.
Crappie in Kansas, you normally have to stock them one time, and that's to introduce them. And the reason is they're so prolific. If you stock them every year, number one, you don't need to, so it'd be wasted money. And number two, they're so prolific, and most water bodies, they're able to do it themselves. So
I think that was a complaint I'm hearing around the heated dock, I think. Not as many crappie, I believe. I think that's what I'm hearing. I think, so that was just why and I see it not stocked, that's why I asked that.
Right, and looking back at the last 4 or 5 years of sampling data, the crappie population's been fairly stable. You know, it's not dense, there's not a whole bunch of fish in there. It's kind of low density, high quality.
Okay.
So normally with crappie, there's a couple of different ways you can go: low density, high quality, high density, low quality, and sometimes you get to where you've got the best of both worlds. But that doesn't always last very long, just because people find them, word of mouth, people show up and fish them out. But it takes, you don't have great crappie production every year. You don't have great crappie growth every year. Some of that stuff just kind of goes in waves, and it's just trying to keep it all balanced and everything. But I think we're going back to see if we can get some more crappie in the lake. That's what everybody seems to want.
How often do you do a netting?
I usually try to go every year. Last year I didn't get on the lake with a shocker boat or a netting boat, either one. It's kind of a this is kind of hard to say, but a lot of my district already has zebra mussels in it. I've got El Dorado Reservoir, Marion Reservoir, and I do not want to take any of my gear from a dirty lake and bring it to a clean lake. So if it works out to where I can get on the lake first thing with the first clean boat of the year and the first clean nets of the year, I'll do it. But if it gets messed around, and like last fall with the wind and everything, I had last week of September set aside to come out and net the lake, and the wind was just blowing and it messed the schedule up. So, but last time I netted and shocked was in 2016, so I didn't sample in 2017. Smaller lakes like this, especially ones that you can see down through the stocking stuff, it's been pretty consistent for a number of years. So not a whole lot changes from year to year, until you start tweaking limits and stockings and things like that. So
my question is on a different matter, is the habitat and the type of trees or debris or whatever that needs to be in and around the lake for the fish.
Right.
I'm looking specifically at our lake. What do you say about the red cedars? What do you say about what really should be there, how much, and so on?
Most lakes in Kansas don't have enough fish vegetation in them. I don't know the exact numbers, the date when this lake out here was impounded, but it's quite a few years ago. And most times what happens with those lakes is, all the woody debris, trees or whatever else that may be left in them. But back in the day when they used to build lakes, they'd scoop them all out and it looked like a bathtub, which was great for some things. But when you're a fish that relies on places to hide, places to rest, places to catch or ambush other prey and everything, if there's not enough cover, habitat, whatever else, that's not good. But over time, you get a 30, 40, 50-year-old lake, just like anything, if it's on trees up in the pasture, it's going to rot away. Trees in the water rot away also. So most times as a fisheries biologist and having lakes anywhere from 2 acres to 8,000 acres, most of the ones I have do not have enough vegetation is habitat, but most of them don't have enough habitat. reason vegetation popped into my mind. Some of the lakes, occasionally smaller ones, will have too much vegetation, which equates to too much habitat, which causes problem of big fish not being able to find forage fish because the forage fish hide too well in that. But as far as the bigger lakes, I've got 3 state fishing lakes that I've got. The smallest one's 84, the biggest one's 124 acres. I can't put enough habitat in those lakes.
So how do we determine this particular lake? Too much,
That might be
not
$1 million
enough? How do we
question.
do- Yeah,
You know, as
yeah,
far
that
as,
is a,
you know.
I'd be interested to know, because I've heard it both ways. I've had complaints about too much, I've had complaints about not enough.
Right, you know, probably the only way you'd actually know that is if you got to a situation to where your big fish couldn't find the small fish to eat. And as far as what that level is if there's too much habitat in the lake, you know, you're nowhere close to that currently. You know, that lake's lacking habitat right now. We put in some PVC cubes when Steve was still around. We dropped some of those under the dock. The guys that fish the dock and everything trying to get stuff in there, because anytime you put anything in the lake that's different than just a flat tabletop, fish congregate to that. So it's fish habitat, but they're also fish attractors, which equates to angler attractors as well. So most of my lakes, that's what I do all winter long. You know, we've been doing that out here at the big reservoir too, is dumping in a lot of cedar trees and habitat cubes that are PVC man-made structures and stuff like that. So in all my experience of 20 plus years as a fish biologist, I don't have any lakes to where I'm taking habitat out of them because there's too much.
Even things like great big dead cottonwood trees and things, is that considered a good habitat? Like if you have a great big old...
Well, if you look at the natural ecosystem of everything, you know, I'm a fish biologist, you know, but I do kind of look at the big pictures of ecosystems and stuff. You know, to have an aquatic system and everything, you know, something falls in there. You know, you got turtles that use that, you've got fish-eating birds. Not that I love fish-eating birds a whole lot or anything, but they are part of our world, and that's part of their stuff that they use too, you know, as far as getting on top of that and utilizing that and just the whole naturalness of it, you know. And that's where things get a little bit goofy, because back in the day a lot of people weren't around to go around and pull all this stuff out. So a lot of these animals and everything have kind of grown up or you know, evolved with having a lot of this different stuff in the lakes. So a lot of the stuff that you might be talking about is, you know, I don't like it because it doesn't look right, or it's ugly, or I don't want it to look that way. But as far as the fish standpoint of it, you know, it's beneficial, and for a lot of the natural type stuff, it's beneficial. So
I've been out around this lake for 31 years at my job, regular job, and that's all I've heard Dale talk about. Dale Snelling, I want more fish habitat, I want more fish habitat. And he started, so some of the trees and cedar trees that was put out there 30 years ago, they're gone.
Oh yeah.
They've just disappeared.
I've got cedar trees that I put out in El Dorado when we were so low in 2006. That's when we had that big drought year, and the lake was 6 foot low. And we just took trailers upon trailers of cedar trees and put them out with a trailer because it was easier to do with the boat. And now that we're 4 foot low now, you can go out there and see them. And basically what you see is the cinder block they're anchored with, the wire ties they were tied with, and a trunk. You know, all the stuff that normally attracts those fish. I mean, they just, you know, you can use oak and hedge, that hardwood stuff. It lasts longer, but it doesn't last indefinitely. You know, we've been, you know, that's the longevity of it's the problem. So that's what we've been trying to do with the PVC structures, is because obviously PVC lasts a lot longer than the natural stuff. So.
So you're talking about cutting the cedar trees and putting them in the water?
Sure.
Not necessarily having them grow all on the banks and stuff like that. That doesn't really help the habitat. It needs to be in the water.
Well, for fish habitat, it needs to obviously be in the water.
In the water.
To where the fish can get to it.
Okay.
You know, there is some other stuff when you get into it as far as shading and different things. If you've got a pond that's got 100% sun on it all the time and there's no places for it, you know, during the peak of or the heat of the summer and everything, if you've got places that are shaded or have overhanging type stuff, and again, you get into mulberries and different things that can fall off those overhanging or branches and stuff that fish can come up to eat. And it sounds really bad, but even birds that roost and set on those actually drop stuff into the water that fish can also come up and feed. You get to the cormorants on the reservoirs, you know, guys will actually go out and fish those kind of cormorant roosts for that kind of thing. So, you know, even though it's not in the water doesn't mean it not necessarily not impacting the fish. They can utilize it for shade and keeping the water a little bit cooler and stuff like that. Plus bank erosion, having a good something on a bank, especially in Kansas with a lot of the wind-driven erosion we get. We've been trying to do that in the reservoirs for years, is get some plant that'll stay in there to armor that bank, so when the wind's hitting it, whether it's wind generated, boat generated, jet ski, generated whatever else. If you have plants there that's actually armoring that bank, you're not getting a cut and erosion, and your lake's not getting shallower at the edges too, so. They're not just kind of single purpose type things. They normally do quite a few different things.
So in your opinion, you think this lake out here needs more structure?
From the fisherman standpoint and everything else, yes. You know, that benefits the fish that are in there, and it makes it easier for anglers to go out and have a productive and enjoyable trip if there's certain spots they can go to that are concentrated with fish. You know, they can be loosely spread across a big old flat or something like that, but, you know, strategic placement. And again, you know, what's the best placement of habitat? That's another one of those $1,000,000 questions. You know, fish move up and down throughout certain types of the year. You know, this time of the year when it's really, really cold, they're a lot deeper. And then when it comes time for spawn, especially stuff like crappie and everything, you gotta have that good shoreline stuff to where the fish can get up there, be protected while they're shallow and do their nest until their eggs hatch. So, you know, the ideal spot can range from 30 foot deep to 6 inches deep, depending on the time of the year, so. Fish move around quite a bit throughout.
So as part of your program of managing the fisheries, you do place the man-made structures?
Yes, we can, yeah. I think we dropped 4. There's 4 of them, or should be. We dropped 4 underneath the dock out there winter before last.
Is there any
yeah.
thoughts of placing any around the lake at different depths?
Yeah, we could do that, you know. You know, I kind of guess run into I won't say a snag, but, you know, working with Steve was really good. And talking to him, but then when Brian Metz was around, I never got to meet him face to face.
Yeah.
Talked to him on the phone a couple times.
We have a new
so-
man out there.
Right, getting stuff fired up and getting something going. I guess that's where we're at now, is trying to get things back on track and get all the contacts
Because, you know,
reestablished.
we hear a lot of people saying, well, we can't get up in these areas because there's trees out in the water. We hit them with the boat, hit them with the motor.
Mm-hmm.
Where if we could get some more man-made structure in.
Right.
Or even people that ski, a lot of times some of this stuff that fell in, that floats over and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I've had people that, you know, your skiers and things, it
Oh, yeah,
creates
there's-
a bit of a danger for them.
Right.
So.
We see that too, different user groups and everything too.
We
Of
have
course,
a lot of
working on
user groups, yes.
yeah, federal reservoirs. We got a lot of user groups that come to those as well. So, you know, placement, you know, you normally have to take that into consideration. You don't build brush piles at the end of boat ramps. You don't put them right off the diving board docks and things like that. But normally with a good habitat plan, which is what we try to do, and like David was talking about earlier, it's a cooperative effort between the county and the state to do that. So that's where I rely on guys like Steve or whoever else, or the anglers and stuff, you know, the guys that know the lake, know it historically. I haven't seen this lake dry, you know, I don't have a lot of the knowledge the guys that have lived here for 1,000 years do have. So yeah, I rely on those guys quite heavily, and also what anglers are wanting and what, you know, what we can do to. And it doesn't do me any good to make all the boaters and skiers mad either when I'm doing that stuff. We try to put it in and have a plan to where, you know, it does what it's supposed to do and not make everybody else.
So I have a question. Somebody brought to my attention, because the lake is very low
Mhm.
right now. And somebody brought me out there and showed me a big old tree that is way down, which you would have never seen before, but
Mhm.
now that it's so low, I mean, it's got this enormous root system,
Mhm.
but pretty much rotted, pretty much hollow inside.
Mhm.
I was told through this person that is more damaging than if the tree was up higher, because actually it's not holding the dirt in, because that's all loose because of the deterioration of the roots and how big they are.
Right.
Is that, and it's on an area too where there's kind of like a ledge there to where, like you were talking about, the waves and stuff
Right.
like that, and if that's not holding the ground, is that tree really worth?
It's still great fish habitat, you know, that's the thing too, you get a lot of those, and that's probably what happened. You know, I don't know the exact tree you're talking about and
Well, the
everything.
tree is still standing, I'm talking about the root.
Yeah, we call that a root wad, and actually that's very desirable, especially in streams and even, you know, lakes too and everything, because if you would try to make that structure, you know, if I try to make that out of PVC, you just can't replicate it, but just all the different sizes and everything else. You know, and they begin breaking down, and that's all part of it too, that's even better than PVC, is that natural stuff begins to break down. You know, you think about you go kick a rotten log open in the woods and you look at all the beetles and bugs and creepy crawlies that's in that, that's still kind of going on under the water too, and that's all fish food. You don't grow that kind of stuff on a PVC pipe, but once those fish get into it too, number one, it's great cover, just the way it's shaped and everything else, but it's also natural and providing a whole, feeding the food chain on that part of it too, so probably pretty beneficial, And that's the thing too, as the lakes get lower, you see stuff that fell in 20 years ago and you haven't seen, and so.
I think you said something a while ago that hits that lake just right on, and that's called a user group. We've also added one user group that you don't have to deal with in a lot of your lakes, and that's the housing around there, and to please that kind of people, and that, that's a user group. And
Right.
so that's why our program right now is taking to clean up, but yet we don't want to over clean up, and we want to make it fit every group. Brush and stuff, Diane took it on with some of her friends to go from one spot over here to the dam to the north end up there on the overflow, or not the overflow, the incoming cement there, and cut some trees down and thin it out, make some of the pads to where you can get to the boat docks and things like that. But yet we still don't want to take and have a bare piece of ground out there like a brand new lake. I mean, that's what it was 60 years ago or something. That now 80 years ago, I guess. But anyway, that's what our problem is trying to get everybody happy with their user group.
Right.
We want to make the fishing available, because that's what it primarily was a fishing lake before it was a cabin lake.
Right.
And so that's sort of our agenda, I think, to get that.
This isn't the first county lake or group like this I've worked with or anything like that, but, that's the thing, it's a compromise, you'll never make everybody 100% happy. I mean, just the wide variability of what people think a lake ought to be. Some people want to go there and catch fish out of it, some people want to go and swim in it without anything touching their leg, so to speak. So they want all weeds out of it, all trees out of it, they want a nice sand or rocky bottom and everything. But, those are swimming pools in Kansas, lakes are lakes, but it's a compromise. The anglers have to kind of have their compromise part of it, and other people kind of have theirs too. So I've tried for 20 plus years to make everybody happy, and I haven't done it yet.
The other one that you talked about, and so we have so many people go out there to see, even though they're dead trees, but the things that use the dead trees, both in the water, standing by the bank, the habitat that goes with all of that. The birds that you talked about, you don't like to hear about, they like the dead trees too, but there's also other kinds of habitat out there too. So we don't want to ruin that kind of situation. So.
And then we have quite a few picnic areas to where we invite people just to come and enjoy picnics.
Right.
And we had I was in that group he was telling you about, and we had the forestry and NRCS, and they gave us certain list of trees that were considered invasive, that they multiply very quickly. And those were the ones that we were, said, hey, cut down what you want, because you cut one down today, you're gonna have 20 next year anyway. So we targeted those, but it was just so overwhelming. You go out today, you can't hardly see what we've done. We put a dent into it.
Yeah.
But we tried to get some of the invasive trees out of there along the picnic area, like you said, the designated area pretty much, and that's pretty much the picnic areas. Because there was some areas to where there's cliffs that you don't want people there anyway.
Right.
But yeah, like you were saying, you have the different areas and,
Yeah, even ugly trees have a use too for wildlife. They call them a fancy name, wolf trees and den trees and stuff like that, but woodpeckers and, other things that like to have a nice cavity. If you take all the ugly trees, you leave, only leave the super good healthy ones and everything if you're looking for all naturally type stuff and benefit other critters, There's a lot more pretty trees around than there is those creepy old scraggly trees that can be good for cavities and things like that. So a little diversity goes a long ways in that kind of stuff. But
wow, that's really interesting.
Who else? I mean, any more
Lots of
questions?
people.
Yeah, would you address blue-green algae and our geese problem?
well, geese are geese, and I'm a fish guy. I don't know how much I can tell you about that. The little bit I know about geese out at the lake is I'm pretty sure there's not a hunting season, and most times when there's goose problems and everything on a water body, I'm not on the wildlife side of wildlife and parks, I'm the fish guy, but normally hunting is one of the good ways to keep them stirred off, and I've worked with this on other lakes and everything too, and that's, he knows where this is going. Some people like hunting, some people don't. Some people like to feed ducks, and when you feed ducks and geese, once they stay, they're just magnets for all the other ones. So it's kind of a compounding effort. As far as direct relations, I don't know if I've read that or not, as far as goose density versus blue-green algae. occurrences and everything, but most of your blue-green algae are a result of over nutrient loading of the lake. So the more nutrients that you have in the lake that can grow that stuff, whether you're growing duckweed or other macrophytes or water willow or other plants, aquatic plants in the water that are utilizing that, the more nutrients you have in the water that isn't being used, the more room you have for stuff like unfavorables like blue-green algae to come in and get on top of it. So I would say the more geese you have, probably the more nutrient loading you could possibly have, and probably just the more food, so to speak, or energy for things such as blue-green algae and other aquatic plants.
We probably have 2,500 geese.
Oh my God.
On a little lake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of stuff coming out of the fields all over, a lot of phosphorus coming out.
Right, geese are one thing, of course, being in Kansas, breadbasket of the United States, we've got real fertile soils. And I think you just said the lake's 80 plus years old, is that right? So you've had 80 years of rain and all that stuff coming into the lake, which is just 80 years of nutrient loading. So it's not, it's a compounding effect. It's not just this year, it's not just last year. It's 80 plus years of stuff coming into the lake.
But it's just been here like the last 10.
Correct.
And it's every place the last 10 years.
Seems to be. I think we're kind of learning a little bit more what it was. Some of my other water bodies and asking about some of the other historians, they'd see stuff similar, but it just wasn't identified as blue-green algae. They'd call it an algae bloom. But yeah, you're right. In the last several years, the last 10, 12, 14 or something, they've got into it. Of course, the increase in technologies and testings and stuff like that. But yeah, we've learned a lot more about blue-green algae the last number of years.
I live on a cove, and we couldn't, in the summer, couldn't even use the deck or open our windows because the blue-green algae odor was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big problem in certain, particularly at the ends of the coves.
Right, where the wind, where the wind pushes it in most of the time.
And I don't know of any lakes that have cured that problem, but
I don't either. That's one thing, and again, hopefully technology can begin to keep up with it. There's a smaller pond, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to try here. One of our fisheries biologists is working with the city of Topeka, and they're utilizing CFAP grant monies to utilize, and I'm going to mess this up too, it's an electronic type device that puts out a pulse, I'll say. Ultrasonic, that ruptures the cell membranes of the blue-green algae to where they're not buoyant anymore and they sink. But it doesn't hit them hard enough that it ruptures the other membranes that contain the microcystin, which is the toxin. So the idea of this is it'll knock them out of suspension. They don't leave the lake, they're not trucked off or anything like that. It's still there, but it's still contained, and they sink off to the bottom. Now they've had some good results with other things, and I haven't really read the literature to where they've cured anything, but I think they have maybe, I'll defer to David on this if he knows, but I think they have reduced the concentrations of blue-green algae in areas that are close to these electronic devices that they're putting out. So stuff's being tested, there's some other stuff going on, but again, treating it once it's already here and everything, the lake's the sink of it, that's where everything goes with the nutrient loading and everything, but the source of a lot of that stuff is what's coming in from the whole rest of the drainage. So it's kind of like putting on the bug spray, when you're at the picnic and everything, when you could go dump out all the tires and clay pots where they're being hatched at and everything. So it's a treatment versus a prevention type. But there are a few new things that are coming. How's my time doing?
Yeah, well, we're about out of time, so if there's I'm gonna close the floor to the public now, but if there's anybody else, or you have anything else to add, it's still open to you guys. If you have anything else to.
Well, I was here to answer questions from you guys, so I didn't have.
Do you have anything else,
I
Ken?
just encourage, if you can come up with a program to put more man-made structures in to do it. That can do nothing but help the fishery.
I'm all for that. Randy, I'm sorry, you.
Yeah, I'd like to see some other, you got some names on some jackets around here and one over here with a badge on maybe. I'd like to hear from you guys if there's anything we can do to improve your part of the lake as far as what you guys are concerned about.
Well, I'm in fisheries as well.
Okay.
I'm just here to make sure Craig doesn't miss anything.
All right. Okay. Good enough.
I'm the game warden for Marion County, so I enforce all the laws and regulations out on the lakes and the reservoirs and throughout the county. I just kind of came to hear about what all was going on and keep up to date on it. You know, I hear a lot of stuff from the public just when I'm out and about patrolling. You know, it seems to be, and it's everywhere I go and everywhere I've worked, there's always a bunch of people who speak very positive and always a bunch of people who speak very negative. And a lot of times what this group is saying is exactly the same as this group is saying, except they like it, this one doesn't. And this is helping the fisheries, this is making it worse. And so it's very difficult to please everyone on anything that you're gonna do.
Well, we appreciate all of you, and CFAP, I was here when we started, so it's been a good deal. You know, and opening it up to our lake, it's invited more people to our lake and stuff like that. The permit, that was quite a deal where everybody expected to have to go up there and, oh, you don't do that no more? So we've seen that change through, at that time was Dale and Steve too. So, no, we appreciate every one of you guys for putting stuff into our, take care of our program here. So.
Any other questions? Any other questions for anybody else? Okay, did you have some documents that we need to sign or?
Yeah, I'll just give them to you guys, and you guys can take care of it. I can come back up at a later time and go through them.
Yeah, if you want
The
to just
grant
leave them with me, then we
project,
can,
stuff like that, yeah.
we can do that.
Okay, yeah, if you'll leave it with Tina, we'll go ahead and take care of them then.
Yeah, that works.
Okay? All right, anything else?
I don't know, I don't know, does anybody have any problem getting back into CFAP? I just soon sign it.
No,
Well, I don't have any
I think it's
problem.
good.
We just-
I think it's a good asset to
I think
have.
it's just gonna, did you want to look out
Shut her
for
off
it
the
or
deal.
anything?
I don't want to buy fish again.
Well, that's like
Yeah,
it.
you don't have to sign them today.
Oh, okay.
Give them to you guys.
I mean, you could, if you wanted to make a motion to go back into it again and vote on that, that's fine, and then do the paperwork next week. You know,
Let's do
after
that.
Susan
Well, we can
looks
do
at it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, do I have somebody make a motion?
I'd make that motion to continue the CFAP to, I don't know, was it 5 years?
It's up to you. You guys set the terms, so you can be anywhere between 1 and 10 years.
What have we been running?
Last one was 3. You've done anywhere between 5 and 3. So it's really whatever.
I'd move it up to
How many
5.
times you want to sign the paperwork? It's really what it
It'd
is.
be a 5 year, that'd be.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to go up to 5 years with CFAP.
I'll second it.
A motion by Randy and a second by Ken, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, guys. Thank you very
I
much.
didn't even hear the end of his motion. Thank you, thank you. You get started?
Okay, well, we're here today to talk to you about 2 agreements.
Wait, we gotta wait. Oh, it's okay. I was told I was supposed to be receiving an email, but I didn't receive anything yet, so I can check it again in a little bit.
About the road maintenance agreement with Diamond Vista and also the decommissioning agreement. I've been working in your direction with Diamond Vista in order to come up with something that we could propose to you that meets your qualifications that you set out and that is something also that's acceptable to Diamond Vista. I believe you have advanced copies of drafts of the road maintenance agreement and the decommissioning agreement, but I'd like to summarize what I think are the salient points of both of those and how they fit into what you've discussed in the past wanting to do. One of the things that you wanted to do was to have a road maintenance agreement that was essentially revenue neutral for the county, meaning that the county was not going to be coming out of pocket in order to enable the project that we're looking at here, so that the cost of the project would be internalized into the project. The second thing you wanted to do is make sure that both during the construction and afterward, the county roads that were used for the project were kept in good repair and returned to the county in good repair. And you wanted to make sure that the county would have security, would have some way of assuring that if there was damage that was done to the roads, that in fact there was a mechanism to get that damage repaired without the county coming out of pocket in order to have to do that. And so the draft that you've looked at requires Diamond Vista during construction to provide regular road maintenance, including grading and damage repair on those roads that they're going to be using. Also, if there are roads that they end up using for the construction process that weren't identified in advance, Diamond Vista is going to be responsible for the repair of those roads as well as an additional usage fee with respect to the roads that were not specifically identified as ones that they would use that end up being used by a contractor. Because what we want to do is we want to know in advance what roads are likely to have damage so that we can assess what is their before condition and what is their after condition. So we want to make sure that all of the roads that are going to be used are included in that before condition analysis. And if a contractor goes and uses some other road, that creates a problem for us. And so we wanted to have a fee that would offset any incentive that a contractor or subcontractor might have to use other roads. Diamond Vista is going to reimburse the county for the engineering fees and for the legal fees in connection with the road maintenance agreement and carrying out the terms of the road maintenance agreement. The engineering fees that have been incurred by the county to date are going to be paid by Diamond Vista when the contract is signed. And in order to make sure that the engineering fees are paid by Diamond Vista going forward, Diamond Vista is going to deposit with the county $90,000. And what the county will do is use a portion of that money as necessary to pay the engineers, and then Diamond Vista will reimburse the county and bring that deposit back up to $90,000. And we worked with Kirk and Michael to get a number that they were confident would allow them to be paid out of whatever we're holding at any particular period of time if for some reason Diamond Vista were to be in a position where they're not putting the money back in that we've already paid out to Kirk and Michael. So the $90,000 is the number that Kirk and Michael felt comfortable with in order to assure that no matter what happens, it's not going to come from the tax monies of the county to pay Kirk and Michael for the work that's required. At the end of construction, Diamond Vista is going to restore the roads to at least as good of a condition as they were before the start of construction. And in order to do that, the roads that are going to be used are all assessed both by Diamond Vista and by the county's consultant before the work is done and then also after the work is done. One of the things that you wanted to do was to make sure that the burden on our supervisor, our road supervisor, was minimal. But at the same time, he's responsible ultimately for the roads. And so what we have done is put him in the position under the agreement where he is not the first line of contact with Diamond Vista, that's our consultant. But if Diamond Vista and the consultant aren't able to come to an agreement about something that the consultant has said this is how things need to be, Diamond Vista can go to Jesse and have him be the decision maker on those kinds of issues. So generally speaking, it is our consultant who is going to be directing Diamond Vista in the maintenance work that's being done and the repair work that's being done. But if there's a problem that arises with that, Jesse has authority over the consultant. And so if the consultant gives some direction, Diamond Vista can rely on that as long as Jesse does not countermand that before Diamond Vista has taken some action relying on what the consultant has said. So then at the end of the construction, Diamond Vista is going to restore the roads, as I mentioned. The county is also going to be getting notice during construction when road closures for more than 15 minutes are going to be required, and Diamond Vista will provide the signage that's necessary in that circumstance. Diamond Vista is going to provide for dust control during construction, and for an enforcement mechanism, we have a few different things. One is that if it's necessary, if it's merited by the nature of a violation during this construction period, the county can suspend any or all further construction activities until a problem that has arisen gets resolved. Another thing that the county can do if necessary is to suspend or revoke the CUP itself. If Diamond Vista doesn't fix the roads, the county can do that at Diamond Vista's expense, which gets us to that question of how do we make sure it's at Diamond Vista's expense? What's the security that we have for that? And again, Diamond Vista and Kirk and Michael worked to try to figure out a security arrangement that our consultant was comfortable with, saying this is enough to cover the potential damage that could be done and not repaired. And the amount that Kirk and Michael was willing to accept for that for us was $2 million. And so what will happen is Diamond Vista will put up a letter of credit for $2 million. And if they had breached the agreement and that breach isn't cured within 45 days, then we can draw on that letter of credit and we can cure it ourselves. Diamond Vista has an obligation, if we haven't suspended construction or revoked the CUP, then they have to still replenish that back to $2 million. If we end up, during the course of construction, drawing on that, they've got to bring it back up to $2 million again. And that stays in place until we have commercial operation of the project and Diamond Vista has performed all of its obligations under the road maintenance agreement. So I told you that we've got, Kirk and Michael is kind of the first point of contact for the county. Then we have Jesse. You also have a role here, and that is that if Diamond Vista is not willing to simply accept what Jesse's determination is, they have the ability to come to you and to have you make a decision to review what Jesse has said. Now, obviously, what they're wanting to do is protect against something that would simply be, in their minds, an arbitrary decision, and they think that they need to have the opportunity, the ability, to come to the elected officials to have that reviewed. And so we think that that's an appropriate thing for them to ask for. There is a limitation on the damages that the county can be responsible to Diamond Vista for, and the Diamond Vista can be responsible to the county for, arising out of breaches of the agreement, and that is the direct damages. Whatever damage is caused as the immediate result of a breach, one side can collect from the other. But punitive damages are not going to be available. Incidental damages would not be available. And then finally, insurance. We are going to be an additional insured, and the aggregate for the insurance coverage on the road maintenance agreement is $10 million. So that's kind of an overview of the salient points of that road maintenance agreement. On the decommissioning agreement, we were also able to come to a consensus between myself and Diamond Vista about what would be appropriate. So again, we don't need to come to you with me recommending one thing and them saying, well, we're not really willing to go there. On the decommissioning agreement, basically what Diamond Vista is going to do is they're going to remove all of the equipment at the end of the project. They will remove the foundations down to 4 feet. They will remove access roads, gates, and fences, and restore the grade and seed the property as required by the landowner. They will repair county roads and bridges and culverts and other infrastructure that's damaged by the decommissioning process. The way that's going to happen is that in 11 years, they're going to put up a letter of credit for 125% of the engineering of what an engineer assesses as being the net cost of decommissioning. We get to approve the engineer, and the engineer is answerable to the county. So really, another way of looking at that is it's going to be the county's engineer that's being paid for by Diamond Vista that's going to give us the number of what are the decommissioning costs going to be? What's it likely that it would cost to fix the roads and remove these structures? What is that net? And then Diamond Vista would put up 125% of that as security in the form of a letter of credit. Because we are always at risk of inflation, every 5 years, the same process can be used to update that letter of credit, the amount. So we start out at what the net decommissioning cost would be 11 years from now. Then 5 years later, there'll be an engineer who will reassess that and say, okay, now what do we think the right number is? And because the salvage value of the materials also might be declining over time, it may be that when they first putting up their letter of credit, it's going to be in a lesser amount than it will be 10 years later or 15 years later, when the net cost is greater for the decommissioning. One concern we always have with security is what happens if whoever's providing that security here, a bank, what if it lapses? What if the bank says, you've got a letter of credit that's good to X date, but we really need it to be good for another 10 years beyond that? What we've done is provided that if we're facing that, if the county is facing a lapse of the security, we can draw on that letter of credit because of this threatened lapse. Turn the security then from a letter of credit into essentially cash that we're holding. And that will then protect us from the lapse of a letter of credit if that's the form of security that they end up using. If they don't do the decommissioning work as required, the county can, but isn't contractually bound, isn't promising that it will, but can do the decommissioning work or part of it and draw on that security in order to pay for it. Again, we wanted to make sure that there was insurance in place during decommissioning, and we agreed that $10 million in today's dollars, so that would be increased as necessary over time, would be sufficient for the insurance during decommissioning. So you have, as I said, copies of what it is that we've discussed. I think there are some typographical changes from the copies you have. I think there may have been some numbers missing for paragraphs, and there was one comment that was still left in there in bold that's since been deleted. So again, we have been able to work with Diamond Vista, and I'm able to tell you that the net result is one that I think serves the county's interests. It protects the county in the way that you want to protect the county, making sure that the county's roads aren't going to be adversely affected in a way that comes back as the problem of the county at large rather than an expense of the project. And if you would like to have an executive session to have further advice from me about this, that's fine. It isn't necessary, but we can do that. Greg is also here. He was the primary person I was working with on behalf of Diamond Vista. Greg, do you have any other comments you'd like to
I think you actually summarized it. I know Nick has some comments. The only thing I might say on decommissioning, you said remove all facilities. We'll remove all above ground facilities and the turbine foundation to 4 feet below grade.
Right.
But underground facilities may stay in the ground 40 years from now. They're more than 4 feet. They don't affect agriculture or whatever. That's the only thing I think that I would clarify on what Pat has summarized.
A lot of wires to connect them all together, and they'll stay under the ground forever. Gas pipes stay under the ground too, so.
These are 4 feet. These are 4 feet deep. Greg mentioned that.
Okay.
So you had some comments also, Nick?
Yeah. So I mean, we're very excited to get going and get this project started. Landowners have been super supportive, and we're finally at a point where we're close to delivering on our promises to them. And as Pat said, we're agreeable to this form, both the decommissioning and road maintenance agreement. I just wanted to mention a few things publicly. Some of them I've mentioned before, some of them are new, about the road maintenance agreement specifically. And some things don't really have to be acted on. I just want to make sure I've mentioned it. So, first of all, of the nearly 20 road maintenance agreements we've executed as Tradewind, we have, the vast majority of those have had a security in place of between $100,000 to $150,000. There's one that we've executed in our lifetime that was nearly $1 million. So while the original $10 million request by the county has been significantly reduced, we just want to go on the record and say that we still think $2 million is disproportionate to the risk to the county when it comes to the damage that could be done on county roads for construction. I say that for two reasons. One is, one of the first things a wind developer, one is essentially to cultivate relationships between wind development and counties, and especially because the surrounding counties in the area are very, very pro-wind. When a wind developer goes into a county that has an existing wind project, one of the first things they do is look at a road maintenance agreement and see what sort of requirements are needed. So when they see something that, like a conditional use permit that flew through unanimous approval, and then security that is well out of market, it gives them pause. That's one of the reasons. The second is for Tradewind doing business in the area. If we're going to be doing a project in Dickinson County or McPherson County, we don't want them coming to us and say, well, you were totally fine with $2 million security in Marion County, why aren't you fine with it here? We want to make it clear for the record that we are not okay with it, but we've been negotiating for months
we've come a long way, and we're ready to get going, so we will agree to it and all the commitments therein. And let me just see here. My second point is Tradewin has invested significantly in this community since 2015. We've leased approximately 55,000 acres in the area. We have like nearly a 95% success rate when talking to landowners. They trust us. They've entrusted us with their land, installing facilities, decommissioning on the property. We've worked diligently with planning and zoning on the ordinance with you all for the same reasons and going through the conditional use permit. The project will also be a significant taxpayer at year 10 and on till the lifetime of the project is over. And prior to that, we're going to be offering a pilot to make up for offset some of the costs associated with the property tax exemption. We're going to be a positive presence in the community. We're here to stay and add value, and it's the counter to that is currently in this agreement there are no checks and balances to the third-party engineering costs. You've made it clear that you don't want Jesse involved in the weeds and making decisions. His time is better spent on other important projects that the county needs done, and I totally get that, fully appreciate it. But given the fact that the project is going to be a contributing member of the community, I would ask that you treat the invoices as if it was your own money. And I know I've said that before, I'd just like to stress it again, and we'll get into that a little bit more in a second. But currently there's nothing capping the expenditures coming from Kirk and Michael. I think you can appreciate the risk that we have by signing an agreement that has no limit. We are going to be here, we're going to be a good presence, and I think it's a fair request that we ask that you put the level of scrutiny on their invoices that you've put on us over the last 3 months. To that point, it kind of segues into my next point. I have a couple things, 3 things I think in particular that I'd like to draw your attention to as it concerns the level of scrutiny I'm talking about and why I'm bringing this up. The spreadsheet you have on your left is an estimate from Kirk and Michael given to us on February 6th. And the one on your left, on your right, sorry, is an invoice given to us 3 days later. I've actually taken this and put it into, so it's official, I will show you that the numbers are congruent. I had to put it in a spreadsheet so I could manipulate it and add up numbers without doing it on a calculator. So the first thing I'll draw your attention to is if you look at the spreadsheet I gave you, this first category, preliminary RMA. Sorry, I should be giving you this too, shall I? I'll just give you a few here. So we had meetings. So this is for negotiating the agreement, meeting with Marion County, and meeting with Kirk and Michael and Tradewin. So those are the meetings. We had 2 meetings. I was there. I was at the meetings. One meeting took the better part of a day. The second meeting took about 4 hours. At that point, the groups went their separate ways. The attorneys negotiated the agreement between themselves with input from both clients, Kirk and Michael and Tradewin Energy. I flipped some line. Going my way. I'm sorry, can I?
You can have whatever you need.
I need.
You didn't give us the first page.
I think I printed off too many. Can I look at this one?
Take that.
Okay. So these numbers are all consistent. Can I see these? Is that all right?
Do you need more copies of that page, Nick? If you do later, I can get them for you.
That would be great later, yeah, thanks. So anyway, it's about, you could round up to 2 days for the meetings that we had with Kirk and Michael. Again, attorneys went their own ways, they negotiated, they did the drafting. Kirk and Michael's hours total 15, almost, well, they total 16 days spent on the agreement. I look at that and initially, I don't know where those hours came from. I know for a fact, well, I would bet money that the number of hours that they spent reviewing agreements, meeting with the county and Tradewind exceeds both attorneys, Pat and Greg combined. I know we're gonna be spending more on their consulting for the RMA than we have spent on our own attorney bills. The second is the second category, that pre-construction inventory. To give you some background here and just some context on pre-construction inventories. So, Tradewind's been doing this a long time. We're, and are you following me here?
No, I'm here.
Right here, pre-construction inventory.
On this one.
This guy right here.
Okay.
That whole category.
Okay.
So it's all those line items.
Okay.
So a pre-construction inventory, to give you background, I'm an engineer by training. I worked for Tradewind in an engineering capacity until I got into development. I've done these inventories myself. We subbed them out. Additionally, we also pay for other counties to do this type of engineering services. Very common. To give you an idea of what we typically pay counties to do the third-party engineering consulting, it's between $5,000 and $8,000 for projects between 200 and 400 megawatts. Diamond Vista is a 300 megawatt project, so right in the middle. I've personal anecdote, when I've done them, I did them on a 300 megawatt project in North Dakota. What you do is you get into a truck, you get on the roads, you drive to the nearest culvert, you've got a video camera on your dash, taking video all the way, you've got your own camera, you've got your tablet, you hop out of the car, take a photo of a culvert, you measure it, length, width, diameter, condition, material, etc. You take a GPS point of it, hop back in the truck, keep going, rinse and repeat that for all the project roads in the project. It gives you an enormous amount of data. I've done a 300 megawatt project, 2 long days, 22 hours. This is well in excess of that. It's nearly 40 days that they have billed to do a pre-construction road inventory. These are questions. I would like to get a detailed summary. I've reached out for it. This is what they've given. They should have daily logs. They should know what expenses they incurred, how many days of hotel they have, etc. So this is a little into the weeds. I'd like to back up a bit now into like a project management role. When I initially came here in December and realized you were going to be employing third-party engineering services, I had to budget for it, part of my job. So I went back to the office and I was like, okay, I'm going to do a bang-up job. I'm going to find out exactly how much we need to budget for this. So I went into Tradewind's entire portfolio and pulled all of the third-party engineering consultants that we have had to pay for counties. I found averages, minimums, maximums, etc. I pulled the maximum number we've spent to date, which was $75,000 on engineering services. Keep in mind that $75,000 number was 8 times the average that we pay. But I thought, okay, well, if I take $75,000 and multiply it by 2, that's going to give us plenty of cushion. There's no way we're going to go over budget. So I put a $150,000 budget in for third-party engineering services. So to my surprise, there was an agreement signed in an estimate of $650,000 for those same services. I will also add that $75,000 payment was a project we did with Kirk and Michael. So now in front of you, there's an invoice from Kirk and Michael before we have broken ground, before we have any reports, or any materials for $97,000.
That's what this one
$97,000.
is here, is their invoice, what you're showing us.
I would ask you, would you pay this without any materials? Would you question those hours? I'll make it clear, as a requirement, as Pat said, as a requirement of this RMA, we have to pay this invoice. We have to pay, not necessarily this invoice, but we have to pay them upon execution of this agreement. And I'll make it clear that we have to get going. We will pay this. But I would ask that a level of scrutiny be applied. And it doesn't take much. I mean, it's just looking at the hours. How long does that take? Why would that take 4 weeks to drive the roads in the county? These types of just sanity checks would really be helpful to us. I think it would be fair to the constituents of the county. And I think it wouldn't take very long. But if you could do that level of scrutiny before sending it to us, potentially even do that level of scrutiny to this, I'll be back next week and you let me know what we are responsible to pay, all of it or less of all of it. I'd like to give you that opportunity. If you require us to pay it today, we'll figure out how to pay it today. But this is out of market, and we have no protections in this agreement for the level of a not to exceed number, essentially.
What's the construction observer?
That's a good question. I asked the same question yesterday. You'd think there wouldn't be a construction observer because construction hasn't started yet, but apparently a construction observer is the person sitting in the car driving the roads. You'll see that there are 30 hours of overtime for the construction observer, and overtime just shouldn't be spent yet. I mean, there are no, there's just no reason for overtime. 1,200 hours for agreement review, 350 hours to drive the roads. And I will add too, I received word yesterday that the $97,000 number is not done yet. Prior to construction, they have required to do additional coring samples, the structural load analysis, which appears to be in excess of $20,000, and the pre-construction report, which is another $8,700. Again, that pre-construction report, $8,700, well, yeah, $8,700 is more than the average of what we pay for an entire pre-construction inventory plus report.
Randy, answer your question. What is a construction observer, which was asked by Nick Coyle, and this is an answer through email from Kirk and Michael. Construction observer is the title given to our personnel performing the inspection work. In this case, construction observers were out in the field collecting data for the pre-construction and the inventory and will act as the full-time liaison during the construction activities. That's an email from Kirk and Michael.
Thank you for that, Jesse.
You're talking all these hours together is over 1,200
All the hours together.
Is that what you're?
It's about 320 for the road observation and about 120 some for the meetings and the agreements. So it wouldn't be 1,200, that'd be about 440, something like that.
Yeah, and I left it. This was just a quick thing for me to do. I was supposed to be reviewing it.
Yeah.
734. I have a dollar sign next to it, but that's actually hours.
Yeah, okay.
But that's for everything leading up to construction before we break ground.
Do you have anything else, Nick?
That's all I have. Other than that,
Other than that?
we're very excited to get going. Can't wait, anxious to do it. We'll sign the agreement. We'll do what you guys need us to do to get going. But I just wanted to draw your attention to these.
Appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Does anybody else have anything else to say with this, Jesse?
Not necessarily agreements, can I just speak just a little bit, just a few minutes on something?
Just a few minutes.
Okay. Nick, you have, I'm excited about this project too. We're very close, but one of the things you have stressed is that Trade Winds really tries to support local companies. You've really tried to sell that point, and when you reach out for bids of a contractor to do this project, I've heard you say that you really emphasize to them that we need to try to reach out to local businesses. With that being said, I have local businesses sitting in here today that have never even, and these questions have come to you, Nick, and I know you're not necessarily, but I think have passed those questions on to the right people. Those right people, I don't know who they are with the contractor. I don't have any contact information. And we have fuel guys sitting here. We have a rock quarry gentleman sitting here, the owners. And I'm concerned because their name hasn't even been put in for chance at the bid. And I'm really concerned about that because I guess I kind of took your word that they were at least going to be contacted, at least have a chance for a bid for, I'm hearing rumors fuel's going to come out of state to support this whole deal, and our local guys didn't even get contacted. So I just didn't know if there was any clarity on that, or if it's too late for these guys, or if I can get some kind of contact information to try to help, at least let them get their names in the hat for this.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking, is some help here.
Yeah.
If it's not too late.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys coming. There is so much, no, I should say, there's only so much clout that we have.
Okay.
I absolutely, honestly send all of those contacts along to EGP.
Okay.
One of the issues we've had, and I'm actually learning just over the last few weeks, is things are moving really fast, and EGP's been struggling to make sure that they can meet all their engineering deadlines. They also have, there was a contractor visit, a general contractor visit. This would have been in December, I think, mid-December. And this was when you started getting calls, right? And you were calling me and you're like, I don't know why these guys are calling me, what am I supposed to do? There's no haul route, that kind of stuff. And so there's a bit of a disconnect between the contractors going out, and if I can kind of explain the structure, Tradewind develops the projects. We work closely with EGP to make sure that there's a kind of a seamless handoff at the time that they purchase the project. They are the ones who are responsible for going out and determining who the general contractor is. So they will send bids to all of the large-scale builders who build these wind projects. Then those builders, to get accurate bids, start reaching out to local people. We were in a position where we didn't have a CUP yet, and county is getting called about construction starting. It's like understandably panic-inducing. So I get a call from you, and I immediately am on the phone with EGP. Make sure your contractors stay quiet. Don't start contacting people and tell them we're starting construction in February and we need bids, because they're calling county now and their commissioners. So that's a little of the dance that we play. So I will say that I know local contractors have been contacted. I'm sure not all of the local contractors have. There was one you sent me a couple weeks ago. It might have been 3 weeks ago now. I got another call from that gentleman 2 days ago, at which point I followed up with EGP and they were only just getting that information to the contractor. Another layer on top of that is the contractor has to remain confidential until they're officially selected. So I can't share that information openly with any other contractors who are calling me, and I get calls daily by contractors. So I'm in a difficult position where I'm trying to get work locally. We've told the general contractor not to contact local sources, and I imagine some of that stuff, and it sounds goofy, but I imagine some of those resources, even though we're about to start construction, have yet to be procured. So I don't have that answer. I can press harder, and given this conversation, I will press harder. I can now press on the general contractor, and I'm still unsure if that's been made public or not, but people should know because there have been trucks around the site to drive around. But there's a high level of scrutiny on us not to make anything public until EGP has made it public. So,
Nick, are you able to move yourself out of the role of the intermediary and give direct contact to either contractors or Jesse with whomever it is that you're passing information on to?
that's what I did yesterday, because I was sick of being the middleman, so I forwarded it right along, and I'm sure it was against protocol, but I'm not opposed to doing it. So if it's the only thing that's going to get the names in the hands of the people who need to get it, then absolutely. I've stressed from the beginning that we use local contractors. We do. We don't use all the local contractors, but to the extent that I can deliver on that promise, I'm game for whatever.
Is that everything, Jesse?
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, Nick?
No.
Anybody else have anything else? Well, do you have any questions, Randy? Do you have questions? Kent?
Nope, I'm ready to move forward.
Okay. First, I would like to go into an executive session with our lawyer for 10 to 15 minutes. I do have some questions. So I would like to enter an executive session, just for clarification, if we can. So I'm going to go ahead and move to enter into executive session in order to discuss or for consult with our attorney, attorney-client privilege, pursuant KSA 754319E for, I'm going to say 15 minutes. 15 minutes with Susan, our attorney, commission. Yeah, Pat.
Okay, sorry.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Can we go fight?
Yeah, please.
Legal timer.
You seem to be getting lost on here.
Just don't trust us. Us government officials. Pay attention. Government officials.
Okay. Out of executive session, I'm prepared to make a motion. And we're going to do it in two separate ones. The first one I'm going to do is on the road maintenance agreement. And that is I'm going to move to accept the road use and maintenance agreement upon the Board of County Commission in Marion County and Diamond Vista Wind Project LLC, as has been negotiated between Council for Marion County and Diamond Vista Wind Project LLC, and present it to the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kent. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Second motion that I'm going to propose, or that I'm going to make, is to move to accept the Diamond Vista Wind Project LLC decommissioning agreement with Marion County, as it's been negotiated between Council for Marion County and Diamond Vista Wind Project LLC, and present it to this board. Do I have a second? Second by Randy. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Any further questions or anything? Mr. Hughes? Nothing?
We'll have you sign
Okay.
to Yes.
I printed it out, but it was really small, so then I printed all these again a little bit larger
Okay.
too.
Very good.
It's a little easier to read on the legal
All right.
side.
Great.
Did you want a copy of this, or did you have a copy?
Yeah. No, I don't have it.
Diane, while we're signing that, is there anybody, do you think we'd ask the public that's here, is there anybody who wants to speak? In regards to this, I think there's.
I think I did ask if
Oh, okay.
anybody had anything to say.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't hear any.
Okay.
I think you were signing.
Okay, Tina Walsh, just.
You want this dated today, correct?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead.
About the invoice, would you like to approve the invoice as it is? Or would you like to give it a week and I can be back Monday? As we discussed, just a question.
Oh, let's see.
Oh, I guess, there's one other thing that's, I think, fairly significant on that. Between the estimate and the invoice, and they're 3 days apart, the number of hours for the pre-construction inventory increased 37% from the estimate to the invoice.
Was this time, when, at one time, Jesse was looking for your plan? Was that, and then, because I think we asked you whether you had the plan and we didn't have all the roads? Is this the time frame in that time?
No, this was 3 days where nothing changed.
Okay.
You had made a request about some sort of a, for lack of a better term, auditing by the county commission of these bills as we go through. Did you have a specific protocol that you were asking for in that respect? Was it your intention that these three would be looking at the invoices, or did you have something in particular you're asking for?
Yeah, I guess the way I think of it is if, I mean, I've been to, a lot of these meetings, and when you guys get bids in, you are very detail oriented when it goes to the bid and you discuss it for quite some time. I would appreciate it, because you're doing that because it's your own money. So I would just request that you do that with these invoices before sending it along to us. If you have questions, ask your consultant. It doesn't take, according to me, it does not take an engineering eye to look at these and draw out questions. It takes, I think it just takes common sense of looking at 40 days driving roads. Is that reasonable? We need to ask Kirk and Michael. They're your consultant. If it was your money, I think you would do the same. I'm just asking for that, given the fact that we're going to be around and contributing.
I don't know that it would be inappropriate to ask for the logs in the receipt.
Daily log, daily engineer, I mean, every engineering firm has daily log, just like attorneys. They tell you how many hours for absolutely every single thing. That's what we get from all of our consultants. So that's what we would require if it was our money.
In answer to your earlier question about the current invoice, the agreement calls for its payment upon execution, and so unless you hear from the county differently before before Diamond Vista has executed it, then I think that payment is due then.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Anything else? Any other comments or kind of in business?
Sounds like we're in business.
Sounds like we're in business. Okay,
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
thank you.
I think there's some interesting people up there that's ready to get going. The landowners are waiting for you to get started, from what I heard.
That's what they keep telling me.
Yeah.